Hello and good evening to you all. Hello, thank you for joining us. If any of you are here, probably I have arrived 1 minute late as usual. There's always a delay in some part of these proceedings. Um, anyway, here we are um, on yet another um, evening. Um, so I'll wait for a few of you to come in. So we've got one like, so obviously somebody can see this. So I'll say cheers to you. Um, there we go. Just got myself ready. Turn the lights on. The lights don't look too bad tonight, so there we go. The lighting is actually working for once, which is a bit of a rarity, isn't it? Right, okay. So, good evening to Susan, Paulie, Expialidocious, Keely, Andrea, Francis, and Audrey. And Marianne. Hello to all of you. So thank you for arriving so promptly. You're very quick. You're better than the intercity train, aren't you? Really, you arrive on time. So anyway, I hope you can hear me. I hope there won't be any interruptions. There may be a little noise in the background, but we're hoping that the noise in the background will be minimal because we're hoping that the wine will help. So you know, we're all in for a positive evening of positivity and conversation, and um, you know, we hope that everybody is fit and well, so to speak. That's what we'd like them to be. Very good. Thank you for your compliment, Audrey. Yes, for not Audrey. Yes, Audrey. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Very nice. Thank you. Right. Did we go to a doctor? Well, yes, we did. So we won't talk about that. We won't go there this evening. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just leave that alone because it's only going to cause contention in the background. So let's forget about it. But right. Let's be having ya. Yes, that's a good line. I do like that line. Who came up with that line? It could be a good quiz question, couldn't it? Let's be having you. There we go. So we've got Josie and Paula and Socio Mario and Mr. Lee Kicker. Yes, we love Mr. Lee Kicker, wonderful gentleman. And Fiona Wright. Hello to Fiona. Love Fiona, great lady, wonderful lady. Yes, we love you, Fiona. Pleasure to have you here in virtual reality. So there we go. Stevie D, yes, hello. And there's more and more of you coming in. So welcome, and hello. It's a pleasure. So whilst we wait for a few people, if you have a few questions for me, fire a few questions for me, not on the topics though. We don't want to talk about the topics until we talk about the topics, especially Julia, the fake Julia. Fake Madeline, sorry, the Julia woman, Andrew Tate, and the closure of the pub, the 450-year-old pub. So, we're not going to talk about any of those three things for the moment. So that's my only conditions. Any other things? So the topics that I'm going to talk about are Julia Wandelt, or whatever she's called on a Tuesday, as it is today, and what happened to her in court today, and Karen Spragg, the creep from Cardiff, horrible woman by all accounts, and wears Crocs. Nothing wrong with wearing these Crocs if you work in a kitchen, I don't think, but I don't think they're appropriate to other environments. And then the closure of the pub, and then the Andrew Tate tweet, which was about an hour ago now. He is a very strange man, this old Andrew Tate. So, what has Andrew Tate been up to with his strange tweets and his strange brother Tristan, who just looks like a comedy clown? So, anyway, there we go. Right. What do I think about the Keir Starmer video posted on social media? I've not seen the video. Adam Bolton, who is a lovely gentleman who I know who works at Sky News. I last saw him at a play about Gina Miller, and Gina Miller has today announced that she's standing to be Chancellor of Cambridge University, and I wish Gina Miller all the best because Gina is recovering from cancer, and she is a lovely lady, and her and I went through a terrible time together when Viscount St. David's offered the reward for killing, and obviously Viscount St. David's was sent to jail. So, I've been through that with Gina Miller. I haven't seen Gina in quite a while, but I like Gina Miller very much. I love her husband, Alan, and they're a lovely family. Gina has been the mother of a disabled child, and, she's been through all sorts of things. She started out as a waitress. She worked her way up to be a marketing director at BMW. Her and her husband have run this big hedge fund. They give away huge amounts of money to charity. They are generous to the core, and they are good company, and they're great hosts, and they're lovely people to spend time with. So I wish Gina Miller, a speedy recovery from the cancer. And also, I wish Gina Miller great success in her quest to become the first female chancellor of Cambridge University. She didn't go to Cambridge, but she's decided this is something she wants to do. And now she's kind of got out of politics because she was very involved in the general election. And I don't think it would be a bad thing to have someone like Gina Miller. Gina Miller is a change maker. She challenged Brexit at the Supreme Court. She did a fantastic job. The lady is brilliant. I know many of you love Brexit, but my friend June loves Boris and Brexit, and I don't like Boris and I don't like Brexit. So there we go. And Brexit is definitely making it very difficult to be in this country, I must say. So there we are. But anyway, Gina Miller, I celebrate her. So there we go. Did I see footage of Fergie at the church? Yes. Fergie and Prince Andrew, she looked like she was about to fall over, and he was so sheepish he couldn't even go near the Archbishop. What a disgraceful pair. They shouldn't be seen in public. They shouldn't be let out of the cellar, those two. And she was guffawing like a fool, which is what she always does, because, we know where she's going next, don't we? She's getting a job on Loose Women, and that is not a thing that I celebrate. I think that's an embarrassment to the king, and I think the king should intervene and say, enough is enough, shut your mouth, Fergie, put a sock in it, you horrible old bag, because that's what she is. Her and her defunct deviant daughters, they are just another pair of old rubbish. Awful people. Don't like them. Don't like this, the way that this grasping family, the Yorks, they go around just scavenging off whatever they can, hanging around with Epstein's and Peter Nygaard, who, is another one who's in prison for, no good. Bit of, his own son. I did a program with his own son who said, I disown my father because he's a paedophile. Can you imagine having your own child disown you because of what you did to other people's children? And they happily took their children to that man's island. Is there something wrong with those Yorks? Or are they just Burks, or are they just total Burks? They're total Burks. That's what they are. Anyway, right. Your cat is sitting on your iPad, so you're having trouble to type. Oh dear. Well, please tell your cat to join in the program. Let you join in as well. So make the cat have what is the cat's name? Is it the cat that sat on? It's not the cat that sat on the mat. It's the cat that sat on the iPad, isn't it? So there we go. Right, lock them both up. Yes, Fergie and the Prince Andrew. They should be thrown in the Tower of London. They are both revolting people. Awful. I used to say that she was just childish and stupid, but she is the manipulator. She cares more about the money than him. She's the bigger grifter of the pair. Awful. She's a fishwife, yes, precisely, Expelidocious. She's a total pain in the arse. Awful woman. Right, okay, lots of you coming in, more and more of you. Michael Barrymore defended the fake Maddie. Can you send me the footage, please? I'd love to see this. If Michael Barrymore has been making comments about the fake Maddie, I'd love to see them. I didn't know about this. It's probably on his stupid TikTok, and I don't actually use TikTok. I have an account, but I'd never ever look at TikTok. I find it very hard to open. My friend, who's a Daily Mail journalist, sends me things on it all the time, and I never know how to open them. It's a bit difficult to deal with that TikTok thing, and it's a bit millennial for me. I'm a bit too old for it. I'm too ancient. Yes, so there we go. Yes, the Archbishop. Yes, the Archbishop shouldn't have even gone near them. Awful. Why would you want to be near those two? Awful people. Dreadful. Yes, Fergie has too much. He can't shake her off, precisely. She's got something in her cupboard. That's why she gets to still live in the Royal Lodge. She's not there for any other reason. She's not there because of her intellect, is she? It's a bit like asking Debbie McGee, what was it that first attracted you to the multimillionaire Paul Daniels? You could ask Fergie, what is it that first attracted you to Prince Andrew? His non-sweatiness, his living it up at Pizza Express in Woking, all those kind of things. You could ask many questions of old Fergie, couldn't you? There we go. Andrew needs the company. Well, he has the company of Bernie Eccleston occasionally. So, he's a really lucky bloke, isn't he? Class act, that one. Yeah, real load of lovely birds of a feather flock together, as they say. And his accountant he shares with Michelle Mone, the PPE £232 million fraudster accountant. This Andrew Lancaster, who represents Michelle Mone, Baroness Bra, Baroness Shove It Up Your Knickers, and Doug Barrowman, her chubby hubby. So, the Isle of Man lovely scoundrels who, really, really class people are attracted to Fergie and Prince Andrew. So there we go. Right. Okay. Yes. Next questions. She rambles around like a truck, says Josie. Yes, she does look like a truck. She's the size of a truck, that's for sure. And she was guffawing like a fool and looks like she was falling over. So she must have been drunk or on drugs or something. I've seen her in the past in a state, put it that way. She, we all like a beverage and we all like, doing this. Fergie walks like a fishwife. Yes, I totally agree. You had to get your car suspension fixed yet again yesterday due to horrendous roads around your place of work, says Stevie D. Potholes are 2 feet deep. Yes, the British public do love talking about potholes, and I'm sorry, there is a reason, because your car's been wrecked, and insurance companies are very difficult to deal with. So of course, if your car hits a pothole, you're going to have a bit of a problem, and that's not very good for you. I'm very sorry to hear it. I'm very sorry to hear about your car, but I don't know what to suggest other than, on Thursday, the local elections, I think it's Thursday, vote against Labour. Vote for somebody else. Vote out your Labour council if you've got one, or vote out your Conservative council if you've got one. Vote out whichever council you've got. Just get rid of them and try and get another council that might try harder. Rod Stewart will be there to fix the potholes. Rod Stewart doesn't, he fixes the potholes in his own road. I don't think he goes around fixing other people's road. But there we are. Mr. Lee Kicker says, don't drive over the potholes. That's the problem solved. But, well, if you're in the dark, you won't be able to know, will you? So if you hit the pothole, you hit the pothole. So, no, Mr. Lee Kicker, that's not a fair solution. As nice as you are, you can't blame people who hit the pothole. The pothole shouldn't be there in the first place, should it? Let's be honest. The council should be doing its work, and it should be doing its work better and properly. There we are. So, yes, evening to everybody, says Jane O'Keefe. Hello to Jane. Hello, Jane. Yes, good if you can get an election. Yes, because Keir Starmer has cancelled most of the elections because Keir Starmer is a cheat. Let's be honest. He wanted he wanted to stop everybody having these elections. So there was some silly little technicality, and he thought, well, we'll put a stop to that, and that's what's happened. So shameful, hey? Absolutely shameful, disgusting, absolutely vile, absolutely ridiculous. Yes, Fergie clumps around like a tractor on full speed. Poor Fergie. Her appearance leaves a lot to be desired, says Socio Mario. Totally agree with you. She does clump. She does look like a tractor. Yes, she's not a Massey Ferguson though, because that's a good tractor. I don't know what kind of tractor she is, but she's, she did do those novels about those children's books about Budgie the helicopter. But she said if she were a helicopter, she wouldn't be She wouldn't be anything of any. She wouldn't be a tomahawk, that's for sure. That woman is just a menace and a pest. Expialidocious said, I don't know what he ever saw in Fergie. Oops, Fergie. Yes, the toe sucking tractor. Yep, I totally agree with all your comments. Yep, nobody likes the old Fergie. She's just a disgrace. She does nothing useful for the world. All she does is grift. And she's going to get £3,000 an episode to be on Loose Women, which I think is a program that should be banned, as you all know. I did start a petition about that once, but it wasn't. I didn't really know how to do petitions then, so it's never been a popular one. But it should be, because I think you should ban I think Loose Women should be banned, unless we have misogynist men as a contrasting program. Let's have men saying nasty things also, and let's see how they like that. And we'll come to nasty men like Andrew Tate in due course, so he's on the agenda. But I don't like people to be nasty to anybody. It's not necessary. There's no need for it. Yes, they could call it dry women. No, I don't think that would work, really, because none of them are dry. Linda Robson, particularly, she's definitely an old lush. Right. Okay. Well, there's nearly 100 of you here, so we'll get going shortly once there's 100 of you. So, yes. Any more questions? Different questions. Let's give up on Fergie now. We've done Fergie. Enough of her. And yeah, the toe sucking pictures could have been from blackmail from Epstein, but yeah, okay. But that's enough of her. Okay. Yes. Well, yeah. There's various comments about Prince Andrew's real father, allegedly. That's a rumor that does the rounds all the time. It's a bit like Keir Starmer rumor that you've already brought up. Lots of people are saying that the Keir Starmer rumor is just a load of old rubbish, but who knows? We will see. Are the mornings getting lighter? Not especially, no, not yet, but I'm sure mornings will get lighter as we go into the beginning of May. Of course, it will get lighter everywhere in the world. I used to love it in Broadstairs. The mornings were fabulous because I had a Velux window over my bed, and the birds would come on the Velux window earlier and earlier. So I was always woken up earlier and earlier. So I had my own alarm clock. I didn't need an alarm clock there. I don't need an alarm clock anywhere. Right. Okay. It's getting lighter in Fife. Well, Fife, hello to Stevie in Fife. Well, I'd love to visit Fife. It's a wonderful place, I hear. So there we go. Right. Okay. Right. Once Kitty dies, will I spill the beans? Well, we all know what's going to happen once Kitty dies, as he's known. Everybody will be talking about it, and they'll all go, "Oh dear, sorry, it's another Jimmy Savile situation." Yes, Kitty, good old Kitty, what a creep he is. Yes, so there we go. Right, what's happening with Hannah Ingram Moore? I believe she's had to cut the price of her house. The poor little lamb, Captain Tom's daughter. Oh dear, she can't sell her house. Nobody wants to buy the house with the the spa that's had to be pulled down because she built it without planning permission. Oh dear, she had to cut the price again. Another 50,000 off. She took 250,000 off before. Nobody wants her house, and as one of my friends pointed out, it looks like a very strange house, and it's in the middle of a sort of housing estate. It's a very odd building for what it is. It's like an old house in the middle of a modern housing estate. It doesn't look very desirable, and her decorating tastes are definitely a little bit IKEA. Nothing wrong with IKEA if you like that kind of thing, but it's not exactly worth. It's not. If you lived in a £3 million house, you wouldn't decorate it the way she has. She obviously has utterly no taste. She has no taste in art for sure, because there's nothing of any consequence on the walls. For all that grifting, couldn't you have afforded to get an interior decorator, love? No, she's a terrible person in all senses, and no apology for what she's done. She is a shameless, disgraceful wench. Throw her on the Bibby Stockholm. She can go on the Bibby Stockholm with Fergie. Yeah, Fergie and her. She's got no taste in anything. She just, and Prince Andrew, he just wants his teddy bears rearranged on his bed in the order that he likes his teddy bears arranged. That's the kind of people they are. They're very weird, very strange tastes. Absolutely awful. Right, next question. Another question. We're nearly there. You're nearly at a set. Right, okay. Did any of her books sell? Asks Nicola Crompton. Fergie's books. Fergie signed a deal with Mills and Boon. She's probably doing quite well out of that, because those kind of people that read those books probably buy every one of their books to add it to their collection, their kind of collection books. She'd made a bit of money out of those Budgie the helicopter things, but I'm not sure how much. She made a lot of money out of the Weight Watchers until they said enough is enough. Right. What did I have for lunch? I didn't have lunch. Didn't get to have lunch today, unfortunately. There we go. So no, there was no lunch today. But anyway, there we are. Right. Okay. There's 103 of you here now, so perhaps we can get onto a topic. Yes, thumbs up, everyone. Scott Monks, thanks. Thank you to Scott Monks for your thumbs up. I don't know what that signifies, but thumbs up to you. Thumbs up. Stevie D lives close to the Forth Rail Bridge. Okay. Well, that must be a wonderful thing to look at. There we go. Right. Okay. Mary Poppins. I don't know what the significance of Mary Poppins is, but there we are. Anyway, so today, in other news, Julia, whatever she's called on a Tuesday, Julia Wandelt from Lubin in the southwest Poland, was dragged back into the courtroom at 10:15 a.m. Over in Leicestershire over her naughty activities, along with her little associate, the dreaded Karen Spragg. What an awful name! How do you get a name like that? Karen Spragg from Carew in Cardiff, and that sounds like an awful place. Carew in Cardiff. Ooh, I don't know what Carew in Cardiff looks like, but Karen Spragg looks like she's come from hell. She's a very unfortunate-looking woman, and she doesn't know how to. She wears some very strange outfits. Today, she smartened herself up a bit. She wasn't wearing the tracksuit, at least. I don't know what her footwear was because I've only seen a picture of her. A headshot, so I don't quite know what her footwear. She could have been in her Crocs as usual. But Karen, yes, we've learned a little more about Karen today. So, and conditions of bail of Karen. Yes, Julia Wandelt, the fake Madeline. The girl who is 23 years old, and Madeline would be 21 years old. So figure that out. Doesn't make sense, does it really? And look at the eye. Where the eye is it's not quite the eye of the Madeline, is it? For a start, let's be honest. Anyway, she pleaded not guilty, as did Karen. The Karen, we all. I have lots of nice friends called Karen. There's nothing wrong with being Karen, but if you are a Karen, we all know what that means. It's not a nice thing to be, is it? So you can't be a Karen, but she's a Karen for sure. Yes. So yes, she's been remanded again in custody until the 15th of August for a bail hearing. So there will be a further bail hearing, which will be a 6-month remand until the 22nd of August, and then they either have to extend her bail or her captivity or release her. And then there will be a 10 to 12 day trial. It will begin on the 2nd of October. If we get to that point of August, she'll be 8 months in custody by then. Kate and Jerry McCann requested to appear at the trial behind screens. The judge, according to one of the fake Free Julia Wandelt campaign claims, the judge was not happy and said, "The world knows what you look like. You're not getting that." Well, I think that is fair enough. We, what's the point of putting those two behind screens? Because everybody knows who they are. They're the parents of Madeleine McCann, the missing child. But the children, the twins, Sean and Amelie, have been granted the right to give evidence from behind screens, which I think is quite fair. You know, they are children and they didn't choose who their parents were and they didn't choose to end up in this situation. The doctors, McCann, you know, they did choose to leave their child and neglect their child and not even employ a babysitter and not even to lock the door of the apartment. You know, they are, frankly, they should have been charged with child neglect. And I've always said that, and I've said that on any program I ever go on. I don't think it's appropriate that those people left those children unattended. All three children, you know, it's three children they neglected. But it's also possible to say they shouldn't have been harassed by this girl. So Karen Sprague has been bailed again. Weirdly, Karen's been allowed her passport back. She has the right to leave Britain if she so wishes. So who knows what she's going to do next. The Wandelt girl, who is 23, as I've said already, was accused of sending letters and messages to all four McCanns between the 3rd of January 2024 and the 15th of February 2025 and going to the family home in Rothley, Leicestershire on the 2nd and 7th of December 2024. So she paid 2 visits, not one. I didn't realize this till now. She went there twice, harassing them. She left voicemails, WhatsApp messages, Instagram messages. She, you know, she's been around about doing things, but there's only one charge now against her, not 3. So 4. You know, and in the background in the photographs was that vile man who was extremely rude. You know, Serge Sinclair of Karen Sprague. Karen Sprague, age 6. So he's obviously very involved with this Sprague. Sprague, age 66. She has been charged with one charge of stalking involving serious alarm or distress between the 3rd of May 2024 and the 21st of February 25. She made calls. She also sent letters. She was mailing them. She visited the home. She's been given conditional bail. So they're treating her a little more differently, you know. The Pro-Truth on Twitter 2007 for Madeleine McCann campaigner says Julia is not Madeleine, but she says, so why, who enabled Julia? The Karen who had enabled Julia is out on bail, but Julia right, okay. I'm getting noise in the background. I don't know what's going to happen. Right. Right. I'm getting distracted now, which is so Karen, who enabled Julia, is out on bail, but Julia is still locked up. You know, she makes a valid point. You know, this Karen should also be locked up, frankly. She should be in prison awaiting charges. But anyway, she's been given her passport back so she can travel. But, you know, if she does a run, they'll find her wherever she goes, unless she goes somewhere very, very complicated. But lots of people have been asking also, you know, is this Julia an actress? What is going on with the Polish parents? Is she deranged? Is she a fame seeker? Karen, meanwhile, has a Twitter account. It's only got 11 followers. I found the Twitter account. I thought that was quite interesting. You know, why does Karen not have any followers? Her last tweet was on the 12th of January this year. But meanwhile, you know, the public money keeps going in, another 100,000 given to Operation Grange. So there you go. What's your opinions? Yes. Right. You've asked me about. Hey Tiggers asks about the Omar Benguit case. Yes. Geez, it definitely looks like it was Danilo Restivo, the weirdo murderer who killed Oki. Yes, totally the same. I agree. You know, poor Omar Benguit has been rotting in prison, and if he would say he was guilty, he would be allowed out. Meanwhile, 3 months after he was put in prison, you know, this Danilo Restivo goes and kills someone 3 streets away in exactly the same way. Bit curious that, isn't it? Really? Yeah. And then that horrible woman that he was involved with. And you should all watch the BBC thing with the Broder woman. I can't remember her surname. Um, I don't really like the presentation style of the program, but it does explain the situation. And I believe there's a new program being made. Um, Omar's sister is a lovely, lovely lady, and she's given up her life for campaigning for her brother. And you know, she's lost all sorts of things like restaurants in, you know, where she lives in Bournemouth, and you know, it's been a terrible thing for her. So we should all support Omar Benguit. I really do think so. He's, you know, him and Jeremy Bamber and Mark Alexander. They all. You know, they all don't admit their guilt because they're innocent men. So, you know, there are people in prison who shouldn't be in prison. And then there are people who should be in prison, like fake Julia. Yes, fake Julia is a harasser and a stalker and a nuisance. And, you know, she came to England encouraged by Karen Spragg from Carew, Cardiff, in her Crocs. You know, you couldn't make it up, could you? Karen in her Crocs from Carew, Cardiff. Um, she encouraged that silly, deranged child after the people did in America with the Dr. Phil show, and you know, the Dr. Phil show made a fool of this silly little girl. So she thought, oh, I'll get this woman in Carew, Cardiff, and that's going to make a difference. No, it isn't. Absolutely ridiculous. She ought to be quiet. What is the relationship between Spragg and Julia? I believe that Spragg must have been one of her little Instagram followers and said, "Oh, you come to Swansea and we'll get on with things." Via Cardiff and Bristol. I don't know quite what I don't know what the Bristol bit was the airport. The Swansea was for somewhere they were going. I don't know what they were going to Swansea for, but Spragg lives in Carew, Cardiff. It transpires, but there was some reason for going to Swansea, and I don't know what it is. But Mrs. Dr. McCann called Swansea on the evening of the abduction. So there is some weird connection, but I do think it is a very important part of the story, this link, because Swansea is something to do with this story for some odd reason, but I don't know why. I don't know if we'll know ever, but we probably won't know anything ever. Does Ron know Karen? I don't know if Ron knows Karen. Ron doesn't tell me that much about Julia. Yes. Right. Okay. I'm getting distracted again. Right. Okay. Yes. Right. There are poor people suffering in prison who are innocent, and the likes of Hugh Edwards should have been locked up. Totally agree with you. Hugh Edwards should have been locked up. Yes, I totally agree with you. Why did he get off so lightly? You know, what a disgraceful man. Awful. Yes, we need a Welsh leak to find out more. Yes, that's a witty answer. Yes. If you hit the like button, it will go easy on the quiz tonight. Okay. Yes. Well, we needed plenty of likes. Yes, we love the likes. We love your kind support. I don't know why you keep giving me donations and all the rest of it, and sending me books and wonderful things, but it's all very welcome and very kind of you. Absolutely delightful. Right. Okay. So yes. Right. Okay. I think we've probably done enough on old Julia, unless you have some more questions. Have we a few more? Victoria Haig says hello. Hello, Vicky. You were in Burgundy for Easter. Okay, I hope you had a lovely time in Burgundy for Easter. Yes, I hope you got some lovely wine, and I don't know if you got in any kind of horse-related activity, but Victoria is a wonderful racehorse trainer who was a jockey, and she's been a campaigner about child issues for a very long time, and she's a fabulous person. Nicholas says, why is Julia in prison when the McCanns are not? The McCanns have never been convicted of anything. In fact, I haven't finished the story about her yet at all. Actually, I've missed out another major development. So obviously there's this man called Christian B, and he was the one I was on the program on Talk TV last year. And obviously at the time, Sky News Martin Brunt, who I was on the program with, had been spending time at Christian B. Christian Bruckner is his name. In many parts of the world, you're not allowed to call him by his in Germany, you're not allowed to call him by his surname. He is Christian Bruckner, and everybody knows it. So I don't know. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not breaching any law in any part of the world other than Germany, but I don't think I have that many German viewers, but there we go. Christian Bruckner is a revolting man who had a victim profile that mostly yes. Right. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I can't do anything about it. There was not noise all day, and now there is noise. So there we go. Christian Bruckner had a victim profile that was mostly elderly people and 17-year-olds, or not, rather than 3-year-olds. His most recent conviction was for a pensioner. He is a vile, evil man, but he's about to get out of prison in September, and basically the case against him is proving to be purely circumstantial in relation to Madeleine McCann. The prosecutor, Mr. Walters, has said, we have no prosecution possibilities presently. This awful man who I actually met via the dreadful Lady Mayor when she was running her child abduction charity, which is how I met the McCanns. Jim Gamble, I don't particularly like Mr. Gamble. He was the former head of the UK Child Exploitation and Online Prosecution Centre, has said. He's implied the whole way through, this is of Mr. Walters, it's Walters with a W-O, not a W-A. It's not like Julie Walters. He's implied the whole way through that he is something more than the public are aware of. He's made fairly definitive statements about Madeleine, whether she's dead or alive. So you would expect their strategy to have been to charge him sooner rather than later. From what he said today, I wonder if they were witnessing the repositioning of something to manage the disappointment that is to come. So I suspect that even they are realizing that Christian B, they searched the reservoir, they've searched his farm, they've searched his cars, they've searched everywhere. There's nothing. There's zilch, zero, nada, nout. So I suspect that the world has come to the recognition that Christian B is, there's no evidence against him. So Christian B is not going to be charged with Madeleine McCann because there's no evidence to prove he did it. He may be a revolting man, but that doesn't mean that he is guilty in this case. It's a bit like with Omar Ben-Guit. Omar Ben-Guit was convicted on the basis of a bunch of lying heroin addicts who, they weren't trustworthy, and the police leaned on them and said, Dorset police said, you will do this. These Range Rover murders, those two men who are who've been imprisoned for that. One of them is out, and one of them's trying to get out. Again, very circumstantial. Jeremy Bamber. Look, The Guardian, the fabulous article. I hope you all read it. Jeremy Bamber could not be the killer because the policeman has admitted lots of the things that went on. So everybody, you can't be like Jeremy outside the building with the police when there's movement inside and be the killer, because what did he do? Fire a laser pen through the window to kill them all? What a stupid thing to say. Absolutely ridiculous. And these police forces, they are shameful. So, it's disgusting that yet more money has been given to Operation Grange, but it's equally ridiculous that everybody's banging on about Christian B because he's an awful man being Madeline's killer or abductor. Just because he looks horrible. He suits the part because he looks like something from Fagin. He looks that kind of vile, evil little man that he is. And he is an evil little man. And he's done some very, very, very bad things. But that does not mean he did this. Yeah. What's my thoughts on Oscar Pistorius? I think he's a vile, horrible person too. They should have thrown the book at him a bit more harder. Horrible. What he did, he took away that poor lady, Reva Steenkamp's life. Terrible what he did. Disgusting. Obviously, the world moves on, but I don't think he should ever be he's got no redeeming qualities, I don't think. And I don't think he served enough time, to be honest, but the South African justice system can decide the way it wishes to decide, but I don't think it's very harsh, that system, is it? It's useless. As much use as a chocolate bus ticket. Right, okay. So, there we go. Yeah, that was a loud topic, yes. Yvonne Flanagan. Okay, right. Yes, okay, so I'll move on to my next topic. A very sad topic, in my view. The Hole in the Wall pub in Torquay, Devon, has closed. It has been open since 1540, the Hole in the Wall pub. It's closed on the 13th of April. 485 years as a pub. And it has been forced to close down. Why are people taking away these beautiful community assets? A pub is a center of a community. It's a place where people can gather and socialize, and people can, a lot of old people can't afford to heat their homes, so they go to sit in a pub because there's heating. In the Magnates in Broadstairs, they used to have the fire on, and they'd let the people come in and do the knitting, because these little old ladies like to sit there doing their knitting or whatever, or crochet or whatever it's called. And another day there'd be a book club or whatever. A pub is a very good gathering point, and it's also a good gauge of society, because you can learn a lot in a pub about people's views, because you can get a huge cross section. You can get the judge who sits in the pub, and you can get the bin man who sits at the other end of the bar. You can get the whole cross section of the community. And we get a whole age range, because depending on the type of pub, of course, because there are lots of these very fancy pubs, these gastro pubs like Lady Bamford, Lady Dorster Manuel has. Call Me Carol. Yeah, she has a very smart pub, and she's trying to sell it at the moment, actually. But that's a different kind of thing. That's a gastro pub. That's not quite like this. This was a down-to-earth pub called the Hole in the Wall. It's older than Shakespeare. It's older than the United Kingdom. It's survived world wars. It's survived 22 monarchs. And the landlord, Richard Rossendale Cook, said he could not afford the rent. He said, "I'm very sad, of course. I'd like to carry on, but unless somebody comes up, a Russian oligarch or someone who'll give me £360,000 to go and pay the bill, you're going to shut, and that's the end of it." He closed on the 13th of April. He said, "It might be that the world is just changing. People say, 'Oh, I love your pub, I've never been anywhere like it, but they don't come back. They've been in here, they've got the t-shirt, and that's it. It might just be the costs and everything, unless the government steps in and helps out, or breweries or whatever. It could be really be the end, And equally, in London, in February, a famous landmark pub. I often drove past it on the way up to the north of England. The Old Swiss Cottage on the Finchley Road roundabouts. It's a very famous landmark pub as you drive into London from the north. Opened in 1830. That closed in February, so that's another one gone. They're all going. So many of them gone. 400 pubs closed in Britain in 2024, in England and Wales alone. We're not counting Scotland in that, or Northern Ireland. That's a total of just England and Wales. And the British Beer and Pub Association have called upon the government for intervention to halt the avoidable scale of these closures. There are lots of places that deserve support. And, if you are living in a town in England, go to your pub. Go and support it, because if you don't, you'll lose it. Farmer Harmer Starmer is also, pub killer Starmer. He's going to kill more of them because he's doing nothing to intervene. It's jolly well time for an intervention. Let's have an intervention. Let's have some support for our British pubs. It's jolly well time. The pub is the heart of the community, and it's a wonderful thing. Right. Any thoughts on pubs? Any thoughts from any of you? You live in a... Julie Wood says, I live in a small mining town, no pubs. Well, that's very sad. I can understand in rural areas, it's very hard to run a pub because people can't drink and drive. They can't be encouraged to drink and drive because, if you get breathalyzed, you lose your license. And if you run a business and you need to drive somewhere, you can't. You need to take your children to school, all that. But no, it's very, very sad. So support your local pub if you can. He says whilst drinking a glass of red wine in a private residence, not in a pub. But there are no pubs around here. There's no pubs of any note. Anyway, you're in Basingstoke. Okay. Well, are there pubs in Basingstoke? I don't know. The Blue Nomad says there are no pubs here. Where are you? I don't know. Shelley says, in my small town, we have 6 or 7 pubs. Well, that's very nice. We don't have any post offices. No, they're all closed down. Yeah, they got rid of those. In London, there used to be one in Chelsea. There was one in the King's Road. There was one in South Kensington. Yeah, they're all gone. Post offices, yeah, they close everywhere as well. In Broadstairs, they closed the post office as well. Okay, they did open a kind of small version in a kind of mini market kind of shop. So there are going to be those as alternatives in some cases. But the high street in Broadstairs, there was no bank because all the banks closed. There was only one building society, the Nationwide, when I was there. Everything gets taken away. Nothing. You get no facilities. Whilst I lived there in Ramsgate, they closed the Barclays Bank down, which was where I did my business banking, and nothing doesn't work anymore. Don't have that there. And in Knightsbridge, they closed all of that. The NatWest in Knightsbridge closed down. The NatWest in South Kensington closed down. The NatWest in Sloane Square closed down. Banks are going as well. Nobody needs banks anymore because everyone has to do it online. They say you must go online, but there's lots of people who can't go online, and the world is a total disaster. But closing a 450-year-old pub to me is more upsetting than closing a bank, because the banks are just faceless dumps anyway. They're horrible, and you can go on the internet and do most things. You don't actually need a bank for most things, but you do need a pub. because you need somewhere to go and have a chat with somebody when you feel down or you feel high. So, you could go and celebrate in a pub, or you can commiserate. A pub is more useful than a bank to me. But there we go. It's much nicer to be able to go and walk to your local pub and take your dog or whatever you want to do, or your daughter or your son or your granny or your whatever. But it's not, going to a bank isn't very exciting. But a 450-year-old pub is far more important because it's got such history in it as well, and now probably be ripped out and turned into some horrible, ugly, Kelly Hoppinified beige taupe house, which nobody will have any appreciation for. What a shame. And there was a stupid article that I read in the Daily Mail the other day. It was celebrating the fact that you could buy closed down pubs so cheap. You could buy, in Scotland, you could buy a pub for £100,000. They said, oh, it's cheaper than buying a proper house, but you can get much better value for money. So they are actually encouraging people to get pubs closed down, which that's an equally bad thing to do. So I was very unimpressed with that article. I should have called out the journalist. I don't know where the article is because there's so many newspapers that it'd take me 8 months to find it. But it doesn't really matter. But I actually thought the article was reprehensible and wrong, because we don't need to be encouraging closing down pubs or shops or post offices or banks, but I think the pub is more important than the bank, to be honest. I would say yes. So yeah, lots of pubs closing. Yes, yes, Elaine. Yes, turn them into flats for profit. Yes, that's what people are doing, Fiona. Yes. That's what they're doing. Property developers buy up. Look what they did with the crooked house, and look how much I went on and on about that, and how angry you all got about them burning down the crooked house. The crooked house pub was an amazing building because you could roll a marble up the bar because of the weird way it's slanted. You could go in. It was a phenomenon. And that horrible woman owned a landfill next door and bought it, and thought, well, I'll just burn this thing down. A grade 2 listed building, and she burnt it down. She should be made to rebuild it, or she should be put in prison. Lock her up. Put her on the Bibby Stockholm. I forget her name now. It's probably in my other notebook, but it will be in my other notebook, but I haven't got it to hand, so I wish I'd kept the page open because I didn't think about talking about the crooked house in its context. But it's terrible in London. There are so many empty restaurants. La Brasserie empty for over 8 years. South Kensington, a wonderful restaurant that was a hub of the community. Shameful, absolutely appalling. Greedy landlords. That is a big problem, and that is part of the problem because the landlords buy the pub companies so they can get the property, because the property, if it can be redeveloped, is worth a hell of a lot more, and that is the strategy. So you buy the pub company cheap, and then you turn it into a property company basically, and then you make a lot of money. And that's all very well. There's some horrible man in Yorkshire. I think I've talked about him before. He owns a brewery, and he has closed down most of his pubs because he knows what he's up to, and he's meant to be one of the most unpleasant men. I can't remember his name. I'll have to look in my notebook somewhere, but we'll talk about him another evening. But The Guardian did a fabulous article on him, exposing this man for the way he treated his tenant landlords. He put such harsh conditions on them that if they didn't do this or they didn't do that, he threw them out. So people paid him money to run a pub, because you have to buy a kind of lease to run the pub, and then he would turn up and he'd say, "Oh, you've breached this part of the lease." If they didn't do one thing he didn't like, he's completely monstrous, this old man, and he's one of the most. I think he's from Tadcaster in North York in Yorkshire, and he's loathed and detested. Nobody had a good word to say about him because he's closed down so many pubs and he just doesn't care. He just buys more and more of them and then just basically leaves them empty because he knows that one day he can turn them into houses. Anyway. Right. Yes, Turkish barbers taking over every town. Yes, everywhere you go, there's a vape shop. Vape shops are another thing. Vape shops. Oh God, those horrible things. Selling to underage people. Awful. Right. Beer is too expensive in the pubs, says Vinny the Panda. Yes, well, the prices are rising. Blame Keir Starmer. Rachel Reeves and Queen of Thieves. She said, "Oh, 1 pence off the price of a pint last year." Well, I talked about the £5 and 1 pint recently, and in central London, it's a hell of a lot more. I do apologise about the noise in the background because I know it's interfering. Yes, I realise it's very hard. I can't do anything to filter out noise. There we go. Have I ever seen a cigarette factory? No, I haven't. No. The Turkish are good barbers. Yes, Turkish people are very good barbers, but we do need more pubs rather than anything else. So there we go. Anyway, right. Any more questions on pubs? Any more pub questions? Pubs. We're losing our historic buildings, your culture. You can't hear anything because of the noise. I'm very, very sorry. Can you hear me now? Right. Most people can hear mostly. Okay. I'm very sorry. It's just a little difficult. Right. Okay. I don't know what I can suggest. Right. Okay. It's £11.24 for 2 lagers here. I don't know where you are, Scott, but £11.24. In Broadstairs, when I was last there, it was £5.50 a pint for beer. So that's about the same price, nearly. Yeah. Right. Okay. The pub that burned down. Yes, we talked about the pub that burned down. We've already done that, but absolutely awful. Right. Okay. Your local stationery shop closed down. Yes. Well, everything. Nobody uses I went last year to Peter Jones, Sloane Square. The middle class little shop. To try and buy some place name cards for a dinner. And the man said, "Oh, we don't sell those anymore because nobody gives dinner parties anymore, so we don't sell them." And I thought, this bastion of middle class doesn't even sell place name cards. And, the world has gone bonkers. I said, "Well, what do they do instead?" They said, "Oh, they eat in their kitchens or they eat in their sofas and watch Gogglebox or whatever they do." So even in wealthy Chelsea and Kensington and Knightsbridge, they don't bother with dinner parties anymore. Dinner parties are all passe as well. So there you go. Don't have dinner parties anymore. Nobody does, according to the man at Peter Jones. So I found that quite curious. Your local paper shop blew away. Oh dear. I think that's meant to be a joke, but there we go. Woolworths. Yeah, they don't exist. Yeah, ready-made meals. What a shame. Ready-made meals can be pleasant once in a while, but you don't have to live on ready-made meals. You can mix it up and have all sorts of other things. There you go. The perpetrator of the oak tree chopped down should be heavily fined and taken to court for harder punishment. Both the Sycamore Gap and the Toby Carvery tree, who carved it up, who carved up the Carvery, the Guy Fawkes tree, carved them up. Have I ever been to Taylor of Old Bond Street? Don't think I have. No, maybe I have. I don't know. I'm not sure what Taylor of Old Bond Street is. There we go. I probably should know, and I probably maybe have been there, but I don't remember it, so I can't say I have. I can't say I have or I haven't. So I won't. I won't confirm or deny. Oh, it's a shaving shop. Okay. No, I haven't been there. No. No. Have I ever been to the Sherlock Holmes pub in London? No, I haven't, and nor have I been to the Sherlock Holmes Museum. And an absolutely awful man who attacked me in Westminster Magistrates Court when I was sitting next to a police officer during the Gina Miller and Viscount St. David's matter, called Tariq Siddiqui, who I also have a restraint order against. He kicked me in the court, but he has a court case ongoing with the owners of the Sherlock Holmes Museum, and I'm of course very interested in Sherlock Holmes. Yes, so I know a little bit about the Sherlock Holmes Museum because I've had correspondence with the owners of the Sherlock Holmes Museum about Tariq Siddiqui, who is a complete freak and a fruitcake. Absolutely vile individual and an associate of all sorts of other horrible people who I've come across over the years, like Viscount St. David's. So there we go. Right. The oldest barber shop in the world is Truefit and Hill in London. I have been to Truefit and Hill. Yes, I have been there once. In Curzon Street, Mayfair. I have been there once, but only once. Very old-fashioned and very Victorian and very mahogany and all sorts of old gentlemen and anyway, it's lovely place. Have I met Jeremy Brett? No, I never met Jeremy Brett, but I was offered the opportunity to buy Jeremy Brett's letters for £200, and I stupidly did not. And they were his letters from inside the Chelsea mental asylum where he went when he thought that he had become James Bond. Sorry, not James Bond, Sherlock Holmes. Jeremy Brett actually went mad in real life and thought that he was Sherlock Holmes. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by noises. It's very hard work. Right, okay, well... there we go. So I think we'll carry on quickly because I don't know if I can do much more of this because it's just proving impossible. I do realize that many of you are not able to hear properly, and I do apologize. So, right. Okay. Well, Andrew Tate on Twitter at 5:40 about today UK time said, have you ever spent a lifetime finding yourself only to wish you were lost again? Which is that some kind of cryptic thing he's come up with, or is that something else? Andrew Tate. He said, have you ever spent a lifetime finding yourself only to wish that you were lost again? So on Twitter, which is really called X now. I should be calling it X, not Twitter, shouldn't I? But I always think of it as Twitter because it's a tweet. It's not an X. You don't write an X. You write a tweet, but it's still. Oh, yes. Tate probably thinks that's clever. That's what one of you says straight away. The Blue Nomad, yes. Right. Every day, Andrew, every day. Yes. Well, my view is, why doesn't he just shut up? I can't stand him. I think he's awful. Responses included, you wanted answers. You just didn't want the one staring back at you. Type of quote you'd find is a decal on a middle school girl's locker. So they're making fun of him there. No were multiple responses. That's deep. Ditto. Lots of them. You never found yourself to begin with. I wish you would just get lost and we'd never find you again. On the X, he describes himself now as 2025 with an apostrophe. World's without an apostrophe. Sexiest man. He really is a very bizarre man. I don't know if he's a man at all. He's just very odd. He's just a bit of a mouse, really, isn't he? Why can't he afford to buy a shirt? He never wears shirts. He's always showing his tattoos, and he doesn't wear any kind of shirt. He doesn't have any kind of upperwear. What an odd way to be. That's what I say. People say he's rattled. Facts: men have hearts, women don't. That's what he said 7 hours ago. That was 7 hours before the previous one. He is deranged. He's narcissistic. Him and his brother, the Stooges, the clowns. And then he was attacking this Bonnie Blue, this dreadful Bonnie Blue, and Lily Phillips, the two whores that, sleep with 1,000 men each in one sitting, as absolute predators. But he couldn't spell predators. He spelled it Preditors. He said, keep her away from the kids. Well, given he has been charged in Romania with human trafficking, trafficking minors, sex acts with a minor, rape, organized crime, many other offences, he doesn't really have much room to talk, does he? But those two women, they're not women, they're whores. They're dreadful and they're lowbrow, and they're just as bad as him because they are behaving in a very similar fashion, but they are women. And people should be calling them out in the same way they should call out the loose women lot as against misogynist men. And I do think that people like them need to be dealt with appropriately. The brothers had a row with someone called Mircea Barbu in Bucharest today, a BBC journalist, and there's been all sorts of rows about that. So anyway, what do you think of these Tates, these awful Tates? It was the Matrix, Your Honour. Yes, he does like his Matrix, doesn't he? He comes out with the Matrix a lot. Yes. So yeah, that's that for all my topics this evening. What do you have to say about any of this? Any comments on Andrew Tate before we move along to a quiz? The Tates are vile monsters. Can't stand the Tate brothers. He's dull as ditch water. Yes, I totally agree. But every morning on Radio 4, they talk about it. The Today program, it comes up everywhere. All we ever hear about is the Tates. And how this morning there was a program about just after the Today program about a 19th century equivalent. I can't remember its name. I should have noted it down, but I didn't because I was too busy trying to tidy up this house. Yes. It's all very unfortunate, isn't it? Very, very unfortunate. Worse than McGregor, yes. The McGregor man is awful, but not as bad as those Tates, no. I've never met those Tates. I was invited to meet them, but I chose not to. So there we go. There we are. They're nasty, nasty people. Yes, totally agree. I think the saddest thing we've talked about this evening is the closure of the pub, and it really does sadden me that the pub closes. But the Tates are a brand, says Trevor. Well, they are a brand. Yeah, they've made themselves into something, and they made a lot of money out of it. But it doesn't mean that it's a pleasant way to be. Philip Green has made a lot of money from disgusting ways he's behaved over the years, and so did Robert Maxwell, and all these kind of creeps. They all made a lot of money out of a lot of things. Didn't mean they weren't wicked people. To be rich is all very well, but if you get rich by ruining other people's lives, shame on you. Why do you need to go around ruining people's lives and behaving the way they do? Disgusting, all of them. Vile, horrible, sick in the head people. Not a suitable thing to be in life. Have some respect. Be pleasant. Get up in the morning and say something nice to your neighbor, not something horrible. Let's begin the day by being pleasant. Don't shout at people. Don't scream at them. Don't yell at them. Don't belittle them. And just say, what have you done today that's positive? What have you read in the newspaper that's pleasant? Say something nice to someone, and then you'll be in a better place. Negativity gets you nowhere. And that's what they live on and thrive on. You know, there are wonderful people to celebrate. Well, last night we talked about a fair few wonderful people, and it was a nice thing to do. Today we haven't talked about many wonderful people yet, but I'm sure we can. And we'll do a little quiz in a moment. But kindness is a gift we all have to bestow, says Jane Hennessy. I say cheers to Jane Hennessy. Well said, Jane. Tell it to Fergie. Yes, Fergie. You know, all she does is grift. She just takes money off people. She's just a free, you know, freeloading creep who gets houses bought for her, and you know, Jeffrey Epstein to get loan her some money, and this one, lovely people. Russell Brand. Oh yes, oh him. I believe the Oasis and Gallagher's are disowning him because the daughter has told them to. That was something I read in a newspaper yesterday. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I think the Gallagher brothers are, you know, they don't want to risk their $100 million tour being wrecked by Russell Brand, do they? So they've got a good sense to keep away from Wallaby Killer. Awful man. Yeah, the shallow, vacuous parasites, the Tates. Yep. What's happening with my collaboration with Ron this week? Well, I may do a program with Ron later this week. But I've got to work out the logistics because, you know, there are issues. So there are logistical issues. Let's put it that way. So thank you for your kind words, Scott Marks. You didn't need to be so generous, but that's very kind of you. Cheers to Janet Evans. Well, if you want to say cheers to Janet Evans, you're going to get a watered down drink. So I wouldn't bother saying cheers to her. She's just a drink watered downer. You know, she doesn't have a bar anymore. So thank God. She's one bar that Britain lost that is not. It wasn't a loss to lose Janet's Bar, South Kensington. It was quite possibly the worst bar on TripAdvisor on the planet. So Janet's Bar closing was actually no great loss to any community anywhere because she was a foul-mouthed harridan who, you know, was a conservative councillor, yet she was watering down the drinks. Naughty, naughty Janet. Yeah, Janet, you horrible old bag. Nobody liked you. You were an awful, awful person, and you still are. I'm sure you are as a conservative councillor. You're awful, but your bar was a disgrace. You know, the way you talked to the customers. No wonder you had hundreds and hundreds of negative reviews. Janet Evans. So no, there's no love lost between me and Janet Evans, and I only went in her bar twice, but I wasn't going to go back a third time. Put it that way. There we are. Have I ever drunk in a pure dive bar? Yes, Janet's bar. Yes, Janet Evans. Yeah, very worst bar I've ever been in my life. Disgusting, filthy place. And everybody else said the same. And she watered down the drinks, so that wasn't a very nice trick, was it? Not a nice lady. No good qualities to her, and a conservative councillor. So you know, how could she be on a council that, you know, that had licensing? She shouldn't have been allowed near the council, to be honest. In her condition and behaviour, no thanks. The rudest landlady in Britain. I don't know if I can find my page in my book. I can read you a bit about Janet's because some of you won't have heard of it. Let's see if I can find it, because I did a thing on her a while ago. Gosh, if I've got it here, I should have a bit on her. Janet's Bar. Julia. Oh, here we go. Janet's Bar, South Kensington. I can give you a little bit on Janet's Bar. The worst bar in Britain was the headline of the article in the Fence. Yeah. It will make you laugh, all of this. Avoid, she is a horrible person, said one person. These are all TripAdvisor reviews. Janet is the worst person I have ever met, said another. You couldn't get better than this. Janet is unhinged. Janet is a sociopath. It's time to retire the racist old lady. It is the worst bar in London. bad decor, eerie atmosphere, kind of like a weird punishment dungeon. She insults anybody who dares to criticize her. Her backseat pricing structure. How did she get the 2 a.m. license? Because she's on the council. It was licensed since 1998. She's a Conservative councillor for the Courtfield ward of Royal Borough and Kensington and Chelsea since 2018. She served the worst hot dogs on the planet. She was infamous for her free crisps and her free lollipops she gave out, but she made you make payment for anything before you got anything. She had 2 out of 5 as a rating. Moscow mules with cherry cocktails was another thing. She looks like the Janet Street Porter cartoon. She actually does. I totally agree with that one. This now defunct bar was hilarious if you knew what to expect, but quite horrific for many who wandered in. To suggest Janet was eccentric does not begin to describe it. I cannot imagine how many visitors have decided never to come to London ever again based on their experience in this dive. So there you go. You wanted a dive bar? They called it a dive bar. They called her a racist old lady. The Reverend Fergus Butler Galley, who is quite a famous vicar, he called it the racist rabbit hole. He wrote an article about it. He called it the racist rabbit hole. She was supposedly fined after being watered down of drinks. I got that from the Daily Mail, from my friend at the Daily Mail who didn't know of her. The Fens called it the worst bar in London. A dead body in this bar with a suicide note wouldn't look out of place, was another review. There's a strong vibe of mental asylum meets hoarder meets bin picker. Merry Christmas, St. Paddy's Day on hen party, to name a few decorations. Random bits of clothing hung around the room. Oh yeah, she had bits of clothing hung on the walls. It was all very odd. Photos, drawings, and messages all over the walls. As we walked to the bar initially, we must have walked into someone's fart as it smelt really bad. I was told within about 12 seconds of entering the bar to buy something or leave. Right, there you go. That was Janet's bar. So we've summed it up again. Good old Janet Evans, councillor for the Courtfield ward of Kensington and Royal Borough of Kensington, Chelsea. Not someone to get involved with. And her bar is no more, thank God. But we say the Hole in the Wall pub in Torquay, after nearly 500 years in existence, has closed down. That is a great loss to the community there, and that is a sad thing. The closure of Janet's Bar, South Kensington, who gives up anything? No thanks. So next question. Right. You'd like me to read out the letter on mini cheddars? You liked it when I read out my letter. I can try and read out my letter on mini cheddars if I can find it. My letter on mini cheddars does amuse people, but I've got to try and get it up somewhere from the computer system. It may be a little difficult to find this evening, but I will give it a go. I'll have a look. Cheddar's letter. Right. Okay. Right. Mini cheddars. Okay. Here we are. So, right. Okay, I'll try and open the letter. Just give me a moment. I wasn't planning on reading out letters about mini cheddars tonight. Okay. So this was back in 2023, March 2023. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the old mini cheddars. So I've been on radio programs like Women's Hour and Jay Rayner. I did a thing with him, and um, I been on Saturday Live, all Radio 4 connected, about mini cheddars. So I've done a lot of mini cheddar stories over the years. So I went to buy some mini cheddars in Broadstairs, and I bought, one of these super duper big packs of, I don't know, 24 packs or whatever it was, from Iceland, or Iceland in Broadstairs. Yes, it was a 22 pack, sorry. So anyway, it wasn't a great success. First time ever. So I said, sir, this is my letter to plasdisglobal.com, who are the people who control mini cheddars. So there was an email address I found. So I said, sir, you asked for the following: your name, your address and postcode, the product's name, size and best before date, and associated detail, the place of date of purchase. Obviously, I gave my name, my address. Mini cheddars original, 22 pack, 506 grams, best before date, 12th of August, 2028, packaging reference, purchased at Iceland Broadstairs at about 4 p.m. on the 31st of March, 2023. So I said, I purchased the above today and I just opened a packet. The mini cheddars were stale. I opened another packet, also stale. I opened a third, also stale. I've been eating your mini cheddars since I was a child. I am now 42. I love and am addicted to them and have regularly tweeted to my following, when I gave all my following information, lots of people, about how wonderful I think they are. My friends will testify that other than gin, mini cheddars are my very favorite things. I am one of your wholehearted supporters normally, and until this day have never had one single bad mini cheddar. Sadly, however, I'm thoroughly disgusted, having bought a pack that contains 22 packets that are clearly stale, bad, and frankly inedible. I am more distraught at this than the general masses were of the passing of Paul O'Grady this week, because he died that very week. I cannot, in fact, believe how bad these biscuits truly were. I am the publisher of the Steeple Times, and I do have a very substantial following. My readers do tend to listen. Sorry, my mobile phone is ringing. I'll try and shut the damn thing up. Oh God, I don't know, that stupid thing, go away. And my viewers and readers tend to listen to my views. I would never normally complain about your product, as I do genuinely love a mini cheddar. But the pack I bought was inedible, and I do hope that you will at least revert with a positive response, explaining the abject horror I faced as I had to throw them away, as even the seagull that visits my courtyard garden daily refused to snack on them. What an utter waste. Yours disappointedly. And that was my little complaint letter about that. And that went rather viral, that little letter. So, yeah, no. That was mini cheddars. No, it wasn't Ron phoning. No, it was somebody else. But no, it wasn't Ron. But no. It could have put me off mini cheddars for life. What a tragedy it would have been. Yes. Well, they did send me 100 packets. So yeah, that was quite nice of them. So, and they weren't stale, so they were redeemed. So I will say, sometimes if you make a complaint, you can get a good outcome. And in that case, I did. But those mini cheddars, they were just tragic. They were meant to last till 2028, and we're only in 2025. So God knows what batch. Something went wrong with that batch. There must have been hundreds of them all over the world that had gone wrong, wherever they send them to. Man, you can't buy them in France. So I've only got 3 packets left here at the moment. I don't know what to do. I'm going to be distraught tomorrow. I had 1 packet today. I thought I'd better ration myself. I feel like could feel like those people who were in the war when they had to ration themselves. And I've got a question about rationing coming up in my quiz. So, um, obviously, my life is not that bad, but but mini cheddars. It's very hard to do without a mini cheddar. I can't go anywhere without a mini cheddar, I've now realised. And it was very kind of my friend to send me the packets of mini cheddars he did. So there we go. Broadstairs Revisited. Yes, there we go. It's not Brideshead Revisited, it's Broadstairs Revisited. Well said, Trevor. You're certainly one for a pun. Well said, sir. Okay, well, I think it's time we did a quiz. I know a lot of you can't hear everything. My computer is some kind of problem with the connection. There we go. It's back on, powered up. I was wondering why the power was going down, but it's something to do with the stupid power cable. I'm going to have to get a new power cable. Anyway, right. Okay, the power cable's back in. No, it's not. Oh, it's to do with. I know what it's to do with. Sorry, excuse me.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Oh.
Can I? I can go on my own. I don't need.
Yes. Anyway, there we go. She needs to go to the bathroom, which is fair enough. We all need to go to the bathroom from time to time, but we don't need commentary.
There would be very little noise.
It's to do with the angle of the cables, I'm afraid. I do apologise. It's to do with the cables. So anyway, as long as the right, okay. I do apologise about various noises and things, but anyway, have we got someone here who can help me with a quiz? That would be a nice thing to do. If anyone is available, it would be very pleasant if you could. That would be a nice thing to do. The noise is me pouring a bit of whiskey because I'm trying to cover up the other noise. There we go. Right, okay. Yes, you can hear me okay. Yes, okay. Thank you. Yeah. Well, as long as the lavatory noise flushing doesn't make a racket. Okay, what can I do? It's just a water bottle with some plain water in it. It's just easier than I just fill up the bottles again with water and I put it in the fridge. It's just flat water, just a little bit of whiskey and water. Have I got someone who can help me with my my quiz? That would be a good thing. Sorry, the cables are playing up for some reason. This is something that happens with this computer, I'm afraid, because you get around your situation of computers. They design your cables to not rot. And of course, yes, right. Cable is fixed, all done. And I did say don't flush the lavatory, but oh well, never mind. I'm very sorry for the noise. That's just more noise. Right, okay. So can someone help me with my quiz? That would be very helpful. Thank you very much. Right, okay. Have we got someone who can help with the quiz? Is PMQ on tomorrow or on the holidays? I don't know. I'm not sure if I don't get British television. I'm not sure if they're sitting in Parliament because I know they have these council elections. I don't know what's going on. Josie Moldoni will help with the quiz. So thank you to Josie Moldoni. Thank you. Now, right. Now, I've got several quizzes, I think. Have I got the right one? We're not going to do the one we did yesterday. That's for sure. I know that. No. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Well, this quiz I definitely wrote today, so we'll have this quiz. Okay. What is the alternative name used by the singer-songwriter Joshua Tillman? Joshua Tillman. What is his alternative name? Have we got his alternative name? It's not Boy George. It's not Harry Webb. It's not Elton John. No. It's not Sonic. No. It's not Josh. It's not Ed Sheeran. It's not Example. It's not Ivor Biggin. Audrey gets the point. Audrey, well done. I'd never heard of him, but Audrey is quite correct. His name is Father John Misty, and he was mentioned in the Financial Times. So I was reading the Financial Times, and there was a thing about his concert at the Albert Hall. Looks like Chris Christopherson in the Rat Pack, they said, according to the FT. So did you know that? I certainly didn't. Right. So it's a bizarre question, but he made it to the FT, so he must be quite a sophisticated singer. But he also used to appear on talk shows, but he's now decided not to be giving interviews anymore. I read the article with interest because I'd never ever heard of him. So there you go. We all learn something new every day, don't we? There you go. Father John Misty is also Joshua Tillman. There you go. Okay, who wrote the epic duology Stalingrad? Who wrote Stalingrad? All about Russia and the Second World War and totalitarianism during the Second World War. Who wrote it? It wasn't Lenin. It wasn't Orwell. It wasn't Putin. It wasn't J.K. Rowling. It's a hard question. I don't think so. It's one I would know. It wasn't John Grisham. It wasn't Gorbachev. It wasn't J.R. Hartley. No, because J.R. Hartley doesn't actually exist. But funny. You're very good at jokes, Trevor. Anthony Beaver. No, it wasn't Dostoevsky. It wasn't Trotsky. It wasn't Keir Starmer. It wasn't Trump. It wasn't Anthony Beaver. It wasn't Starmer. It wasn't Janet Evans. We blame Janet. Janet Evans is now the new Anthea Turner, isn't she, on this channel? Let's say, we could put Anthea Turner and Janet in a bar and we'd have a right old duo, wouldn't we? Agatha Christie, no. Jeffrey Archer, no. Margaret Thatcher, no. Timmy Mallet, no. Not please don't bring up Timmy Mallet. My grandmother dealt with him appropriately. He deserved. There you go. Lady Min's cat gets the point. Lady Min's cat. You can have the point because, of course, it was Vasily Grossman. Vasily Grossman wrote the book. Very famous book. So I'm surprised. I've read bits of it, but I haven't read the whole lot. But no, it's a very interesting book about totalitarianism and the Second World War in Russia, and obviously with my relationship with Arthur Ransom, who was involved in the First World War, and Russia and Lenin and Trotsky and all of that, I'm quite interested. I've never been to Russia, but I would love to go to Russia, but obviously it's not the time to go, is it? I don't think we'd be very welcome. I might be welcome wearing the red jacket, but keep the red flag flying, that's the song of the Labour Party, isn't it? Of course. So, but they don't do their Trotskyism anymore, do they? They just steal glasses and knickers, Lady Starmer, Lady Cloves Horse, and Sakia, the free glasses, should have gone to Specsavers, eh? They're not proper old Labour, are they? But no, I was very interested in that book, so there we go. Anyway, right, so Lady Min's cat has 1 point and Audrey has 1 point, so we haven't failed on a question yet. You failed on one question last night, didn't you? So you've got to try harder, a lot of you. So let's be having it, as they say, as Jimmy Savile would say. There goes the end of the red wine, which my friends kindly brought me yesterday. Had a lovely time in the garden with them, drinking red wine and playing around with model boats. That was a delight. So the next question. Who famously declared, "I think, therefore I am"? It's one of the biggest, one of the famous quotation. If you don't get it immediately, I'll be very disappointed in you all. It wasn't Margaret Thatcher. It wasn't Socrates. It wasn't. It was René Descartes. Yes, of course, the French mathematician and philosopher who lived between 1596 and 1650. So well done to. I can accept just the Christian name, Lady Min's cat. You can have it. You get a second point. So we've only got 2 people in the running as the quiz stands at the moment. Out of 3 questions, 2 people have answered successfully. It wasn't Jimmy Savile, and it wasn't Churchill, and it wasn't Lady Min's cat either. I don't think Lady Min has a cat, to be honest, but we had a cat that came in the garden here, and it's been causing damage to the lawn, and we don't like the cat because it's causing damage to the lawn. And, you know, after all my gardening, I don't like things that cause damage to the gardening. So we don't like this cat, and it's white with big blue eyes, and its owner has left, and it's left it behind. Poor cat. I do feel a bit sorry for it, but it doesn't need to come damaging the lawn. We prefer our seagulls here. We have a seagull called Keith and one called Penelope. They behave themselves. They sit on the lawn and they don't do any damage, and they don't even leave mess because they're too busy making a mess of a boat across the way, which I don't think the owner of the boat will be very happy when they arrive to see that they've had a seagull nesting on it. Okay, the next question. Which English cook once said, "I've done lamb's liver in 14 different ways, and there isn't a 15th"? An English cook. She's a female, obviously. Female cook. Well, you can have a male cook, but she's a female cook. The first one to get it is Shelley Di Stefano. Shelley Di Stefano. Shelley Di Stefano gets the point. It is, of course, Delia Smith. You know, Delia Smith, who, if you all remember, got drunk at her own football club she owns, Norwich Football Club, and went on the pitch and said, "Where are ya? Let's be having ya. We need a 11th man," or something. She was screaming. It's one of the best YouTube videos I've ever seen. Delia Smith drunk on a football pitch, rolling around, screaming. She claimed she wasn't drunk. She was just putting on an act, but I don't think so. Delia showed her different side that night at that football game. But I think Delia Smith is a national treasure, an absolutely wonderful lady. Her cookery books are useful and well written. And, she guided the way for a lot of other people to get into the world of food and drinks. So, she's like Julia Child. Give her a pass. So good old Delia. And I loved her football rant. So that's why I thought of it. Who are the most prominent, and there are multiple options available, supporters of the convicted baby slaughtering monster Lucy Letby? Who are the many options of famous supporters of Lucy Letby? I'll take the first one. Miss Marple gets the point because Hugo Hitchens. Okay. I'll accept Miss Marple's answer, even though you didn't give the Christian name, because the other Hitchens is dead. So you could have said Lord Sumption. You could have said Nadine Dorries, former MP, who's a weirdo. You could have said David Davis, MP, who is, well, another weirdo. Okay. And what is my friend Eric Knowles? I've had lunch with him many a time at the Carlton Club in St. James's. Eric Knowles most associated with? What is Eric Knowles associated with? Eric Knowles. Miss Marple gets a second point. So Miss Marple goes into joint first. Of course, he's antiques. He's an antiques expert. He was on the Antiques Roadshow, which is a lovely, lovely, harmless program that my grandmother loves to watch. It keeps my grandmother very happy to watch the Antiques Roadshow because it's good, harmless television. We need more television like the Antiques Roadshow and less of all this rubbish that they put on. You know, we don't need this celebrity Big Brother where they're dressing up as cats and relieving themselves in litter trays. It's disgusting. That is revolting. And, you had that former MP, George Galloway, meowing at people and all that rubbish. We don't need all that. We need more programs like the Antiques Roadshow. It would be a good thing, I think. But Eric Knowles, I haven't seen him in quite a few years, but I used to have lovely lunches with him at the Carlton Club in St. James's with a very dear friend, and who's since died. Sorry, I shouldn't say passed. You shouldn't say that. Giles Brandreth would tell me off. You're not meant to say passed. They died. You're not meant to say people pass. I read that in his book, which I was reading the other day again. Sorry, I apologize, Giles. I got it wrong. Mea culpa, my fault. Oh dear. I did commit a terrible error there, so I do apologize. Right. Okay, next question. How many square kilometers, approximately, I will say, I'll allow you the approximation, does the Great Barrier Reef cover? So how many approximately? How many square kilometers? It's not 600. I need in thousands. It's not 2,000. No, it's not 5,000.
6.
She's shouting 6 in the background. Is Lady Min? No, it's not 6 at all. It's nowhere near 6. No, it's not 18,000. Audrey gets the point. Audrey, well done. We've now got 3 of you in first place. We may have to have a tiebreaker question at this rate. It's about 344,000 square kilometers. There are 900 islands. I didn't know that until this morning. So there you go. You learn something every day. I didn't write down the exact number because I was reading it from some kind of book. I didn't go on the Wikipedia because I don't take the computer outside in the daytime because it's too hot and the computer overheats. So I had to. I go with the books. Okay, what coloured jackets are golf's masters associated with? What coloured jackets do they wear? What is, the winner is given. What is the colour of the jacket? Miss Marple gets the point, so Miss Marple goes back into the lead. You with 3 points. Of course, the jacket is green. If you win, you get the green jacket, don't you? So there you go. Okay, which rocker and frontman of The Who announced he was going blind after previously announcing he was going deaf in 2025? Dr. Sin. Oh, no, actually not Dr. Sin. No, Miss Marple gets there first. Miss Marple gets a 4th point. Miss Marple is well in the lead now. Well done. Of course, it was Roger Daltrey. Poor Roger Daltrey is going deaf and blind, which can't be very good if you're a rocker. Okay, what is Camden Hells? What is Camden Hells? I don't need a whole description of what it is, but what is Camden Hells? Right. The first of you to get it is Cadders, a new entrant. Thank you, Cadders. It is beer, yes. It's a beer brand. They make ales and pale ales and real ales and all that kind of thing. I could go into much more detail, but I didn't bother to write it all down because I was sitting outside in the sun. What does the word coined in 1650, horripilation mean? What does horripilation mean? What is horripilation? Oh, Josie, the first person to get it was Cadders, the last one. So Miss Marple was the last one. Miss Marple. Miss Marple got the last one. It's not goose pimples. It's not dogging. It's not. So the word is horripilation. Horripilation. Okay. Lady Min's cat, I can accept your offer of hair standing, you say. It's a bristling of hair on the skin. It's a horripilation. There you are. I didn't know the word. Okay. And the lady in the background will be quiet at this point. I don't want her to shout at all. I'm going to make her remain quiet on this question because she will know the answer, I believe. With which country is Stellenbosch wine associated? Okay, and I'm not going to allow any shouting in the background because if I get that, I will have no end of trouble. No, no, no! Oh, you've ruined it again. Lois Petzold, you can have it because you got it before she totally shouted it. I knew she'd do that. I told her not to shout. She's not allowed to join in the quiz because we can't have cheating. It's got to be the people online who do the quiz. So anyway, Lois Petzold gets the point. South Africa is, of course, where they make Stellenbosch wine. How long is the Cotswold Way? It's a walk. It's a walk. How long is it? It's not 10 miles. No. No. David gets the point. David, it is 6 miles long, the Cotswold Way. It's part of the 112-mile National Trail. It goes from Chipping Campden to Bath. So there we go. There you go. Well, who painted the creation of Adam? It's in the Sistine Chapel. Who painted the creation of Adam? Lois can have a point. Another second point for Lois. It's, of course, Michelangelo. Yes. Okay. In which year did the Siege of Malta occur? When did the Siege of Malta occur? It wasn't 1999. No. It wasn't 1535. It wasn't 1942 or 1866 or 1270. No. No. Loads of no's. Okay, Audrey gets another point. So Audrey gets a third point. Well done, Audrey. Of course, it was in 1565. There were 25,000 troops involved in the Siege of Malta. It was the Ottomans versus the piratical Knights Hospitalier. And it was Suleiman the Magnificent, of course. So, yeah, the Siege of Malta. I was reading about it today. And I thought, well, maybe you might want to know a bit about it. And I was reading a very interesting article about this in a magazine that I'd got found in my bag that I'd carried with me over here. So I didn't know much about the Siege of Malta, but I think I'd like to read more about it. It was, the fact there were 25,000 troops. Wow. Suleiman the Magnificent was definitely someone who did things in a magnificent style, didn't he? So, well, anyway, it's long gone and all over. We had my own family troubles with Malta, so I won't go there tonight. But anyway, thank God my sister's no longer married to a Maltese man. Let's leave it at that. Okay, right, another one. In which year did Warren Harding become president of the United States of America? In which year did this strange man, Warren Harding, become president of America? Lois gets another point. So Lois and Lady Min's cat are both in joint second to Miss Marple now. Of course, Warren Harding became president in 1921. He lasted only till 1923. He was known as the horny old dog, multiple mistresses. He was known as shallow, corrupt, and dim. That's what everybody said of him. He wasn't a very liked president. It sounds a bit like Joe Biden and Donald Trump, doesn't he, really? Absolutely ridiculous. I've been speaking to someone about those two today, and in England, who's having a lot of trouble because their daughter's coming back from America just to visit their very ill relative and mother. And, Donald Trump's causing problems with the green card, I believe. So it's going to be a bit of a problem, isn't it? Awful. Okay, as of 2025, a more positive question. How many series of Silent Witness, and I do enjoy an episode of Silent Witness myself, have there been on the BBC? How many episodes of Silent Witness, series, sorry, not episodes, series. There have not been 8, there have not been 12, there have not been 35, there have not been 24, not 100, no. No series. Series. It's not 26. It's not 5, it's not 10, it's not 26, it's not 14 or 15, it's not 11, it's not 25, it's not 3, it's not 0. No, of course it's not 0. That's the stupidest answer ever, Enigma. Enigma, do try harder. Are you the weakest link? Lady Min's Cat gets a point, which takes Lady Min's Cat into joint first position, because, of course, you've now got 4 points each, Miss Marple and Lady Min's Cat. You couldn't make your names up. Of course, there have been 28 series, and all sorts of wonderful people have been in Silent Witness. Amelia Fox, all sorts of people, lovely people. I love it. I love an episode of Silent Witness. It's very interesting crime drama, and it's fun to watch. It's not just a bit weird in parts, but I just enjoy it. So there we go. Okay, what is the name of the QAnon shaman who stormed the Capitol dressed in Viking furs and a horned hat, who was pardoned by Donald Trump? What was his name? Because he's come up again, because there's been lots of TV shows about him. Very unpleasant, bizarre man. It wasn't King Harold, and it wasn't the Hawk. It wasn't Deneau. Lady Min's Cat gets his Christian name correct, but not his surname, so I can't accept your answer. Sorry. No, your answer is Lady Min's Cat now gets it correct. So Lady Min's Cat goes back into the lead with 5 points. It was Jacob Chansley. He was pardoned by Donald Trump. There we go. Okay, and so here's the question I referred to earlier when we talked about mini cheddars. With which war is nettle soup primarily associated? Nettle soup. When did people in Britain eat nettle soup? No. I'm not going to give you. I'm not. Okay, Jane O'Keefe, you can have the point. Jane O'Keefe. Of course, it was the Second World War, because it was all to do with the land girls and rationing. So they made nettle soup. They decided to make soup out of nettles. My grandfather used to like making my maternal grandfather used to like making nettle wine. That was something he was into. I never quite got the thing. He liked making elderflower wine, and all. He made all sorts of wine and beer, and he made everything. He was always busy because he was very into gardening, and that was his thing. And my mother's very into gardening as well. They're all into gardening, a lot of them. So I know a bit about all these kind of weird things and how you make these weird things and the fermenting process, and you have to put them in these kind of jars. And oh my god! But we did make nettle wine once. I remember.
Granny made nettle tea.
Right, she's shouting that her granny made nettle tea. Well, I think nettle wine might be a bit better than nettle tea for her. But anyway, nettle soup was what they made during the Second World War. Okay, and your final question, without interruption from behind, please. We don't need interruptions. Shouting in the background is not welcome. This is not an episode of Coronation Street. We went to the local community thing. It was the most boring event this evening. There was another one. No, I don't need any help, thank you. I'm quite happy to do my own program, so the shouting in the background is not really welcome from anyone. Anyway, with which set of islands are the Cerro Colorado tortoise primarily associated? And I used to go to fundraisers to do with these tortoises because I'm very into animals, as you all know, and I don't like abuse of animals, and they're very highly endangered tortoises. Which islands? The first person to get it is Elaine Bynes. Elaine Bynes, you get the point. Well done to Elaine. Elaine, of course, is correct, but with the Galapagos Islands. I've never been there, but I would love to go to the Galapagos Islands one day, and I intend to go. So, anyway, in this quiz, as far as I'm aware, Lady Min's cat is the winner with 5 points. Miss Marple comes second with 4 points. Audrey and Lois Petzold come joint third with 3 points. So, and then we have 1 point for Shelley Di Stefano and Cadders, 1 point, and David, 1 point, and Jane O'Keefe, 1 point, and Elaine Bynes, 1 point. So well done to all of you for participating in this quiz. Thank you very much for your participation. That was appreciated. That will now go in the envelope because we don't want you to get mixed up and have the wrong one again. I'm not sure if we did this quiz. This is another one. I think we did this one. Did we do the quiz about Peter McAvoy and the Rolling Stones? Did you do this? I think we did. I don't know why this quiz is on the table. For some reason, it's left on. When I leave it on the table, it hasn't been done. But sometimes, no. Sometimes I move the things around, and it's no. You didn't. We didn't do. We did do this quiz. Right. I don't think we did. We do this quiz. Okay, we can try starting off the questions, but I think we'll find that the questions are did we do this? I think we did this one. You don't think we did? Okay, we'll try and start it, and you can see if you can have a go.
Why don't you do it again?
Well, we can't do the quiz that has been done immediately. With which sport was Peter McAvoy associated? Yes, you're getting a second quiz if as long as we wait. Let's have a go. Okay, you can have a go at it. Okay, right. With which sport was Peter McAvoy associated? Jane O'Keefe gets the point. Well done, Jane. Of course, you have done this quiz before. Well, do you want to have the quiz again or not? Or should I just choose another? I'll choose one from the past. Why don't we do that? Okay, we can have another quiz. You claim you've done this quiz, but some of you claim no, you haven't. Choose another one. Okay, right. Well, I'll choose another one. Okay, right. I've got a file here with hundreds of them. So, right. Okay, we'll just choose one from long ago. I'll go backwards and find something old. Okay. Right. Okay, you can have an old one. Right. Okay, you can have an old one. I need to pour myself another drink first because, drink. I've got to learn to think. I'll add a bit more water, a bit more whiskey, because quizmasters always have to have a drink in their hand. I was told that by my friend Mario, and he does quizzes at the Magnet. So he said, always have a drink in your hand when you're a quizmaster. So there we go. And he raises lots of money for disabled children, and he does lots of good for the world, does our Mario. We love Mario. Cheers to Mario. What you'd say, cheers. We all love Mario. He's a fabulous man. I don't know if Mario's here, but probably not. He's probably watching something far more interesting than me. Okay, this quiz begins. Right, we're going to start again. So, Jane O'Keefe, I'm very sorry. Your point is cancelled because we're going to have to start a new quiz. Right. Do I get hangovers? Not very often, no. Don't do hangovers. Hangovers are for wimps. If you've got a hangover, have some ibuprofen because, John Stoddart, my friend, he goes, that's breakfast. So, oh, please. Sorry about the interference. Sorry. Right. Okay. I'm sorry about the interference in the background. It's just. Oh, please, please. I'm trying to talk. Sorry, we don't need interference during a quiz. Interference is unwelcome. Okay, what is the Welland Valley on the border of Leicestershire and Northamptonshire nicknamed? What is the nickname of the Welland Valley? It's as beautiful as the Cotswolds without the price tag. What is it nicknamed? It's not Welly. Nope, it's not Cheddar George. Cheddar Gorge, sorry, not Cheddar George. It's not the Ribble. No, the Ribble Valley is in Lancashire. It's a lovely area, the Ribble Valley. It's not, and it's certainly not called Janet Evans. Who would call anything beautiful Janet Evans? Audrey gets the point. Well done, Audrey. Well done. Audrey gets the first point. It's called the Cotswolds because it's cheaper than the Cotswolds. So it's rather like in London. Can you please be quiet in the background? You're interfering with the quiz. It's not helping. Right. It's like they call the area north of Soho NoHo now. It's that's what they do. They rebrand areas and call them silly names. Okay, what was the name of the author of the hit supernatural series The Vampire Diaries who died on the 8th of March 2025? What was her full name? I need a full name. I'm not going to take bits of a name. I'll take the full name. I don't need a middle name, but her name. No, you don't know. No. It wasn't Milton Keynes. L.J. Smith is close, Audrey, but you didn't give her full name. No, I'll take her full name in this instance. It wasn't J.R. Hartley, no, because J.R. Hartley is not actually a person. I love the advert, but no. It wasn't Count Duckula, no. Linda Smith, I can accept. Okay, it's Linda Smith. I'll accept Lois Petzold, Linda Smith. Her name was Lisa Jane. So not Linda Smith. No, I can't accept your answer. Actually, no, it's not Linda Smith. So no, your answer is wrong. Actually, Lois, sorry. Audrey can have it. Audrey can have it because Audrey has put it correctly. Yeah, okay, Audrey gets the second point. So we've only got Audrey on a point here at this stage. Right, on which council estate did the actor Callum Turner grow up? And I need the full name of the estate. Which London council estate did Callum Turner, who's quite a clever actor, I quite like his work, grow up? Where did Callum Turner grow up? I believe he's going out with that woman called Dua Lipa, and Dua Lipa was filming in Broadstairs only last year. There we go. It wasn't the Elephant and Castle. It wasn't North Peckham. It wasn't Brixton. It wasn't Hackney Central. It wasn't Fleabag. Audrey says Chelsea. Well, you are close, but you aren't on the. You haven't got the name of the estate. The area is correct, but the estate is not called that. I need the name of the estate. I did this last time. I remember you all got very flummoxed by this. Oh, it's not a tangerine sports jacket, AJ Coleman. This one's red. It's just the lighting is awful and weird because the lighting just does not work in this situation. I can't have lighting at the right angle. Right, Keeley gets the point. Well done, Keeley. Keeley, of course, it was the World's End council estate. So that's where Callum Turner grew up. Okay. In which year did Sherlock Holmes, we've talked about him already tonight, and Jeremy Brett, and I should have bought those bloody letters. It would have been worth a fortune. Stupidest mistake I ever made in my life. First appear in print in A Study in Scarlet. What year was the first year? And I'm an obsessive of Sherlock Holmes. It wasn't. Oh, Lois gets the point. Lois Petzold. Yes, Lois, you're obviously very knowledgeable on Sherlock Holmes. Of course, it was 1887. And now my next question also relates to the same topic. At which London address did the fictional detective Sherlock Holmes live? Where did he live in the books? Where did he live? And I need the exact address. Lois gets the point again. Well done. Of course, it was 221B Baker Street, which, of course, became the headquarters of Abbey National Bank. And they used to have to employ someone to deal with all the posts that went to Sherlock Holmes. I don't know what it is now, but I don't know if Abbey National even exists. No idea. What was the name of the Tesco heiress? A very horrible woman who I did encounter, who led Westminster City Council from 1983 to 1991, and who was accused of gerrymandering and issued a surcharge ultimately of £42 million. What was her name? She fled to Israel. Her father was called Cohen, but she wasn't called Cohen. No. Well, she was at one point, but no. I want her proper name. It wasn't Janet Evans. We can't blame Janet Evans and Anthea Turner for everything on the planet. They are both awful, and we could blame Lizzie Cundy and what's her name? What's her name? Vanessa Feltz. We could blame her for a few things. Audrey can have the point because, of course, which takes Audrey into the lead with 3 points because, of course, it was Dame Shirley Porter, DBE. She was the daughter of the Cohen who founded Tesco, but she was a very naughty woman and not very pleasant, very unpleasant. Margaret didn't like her, to be honest. I can tell you that. At which Cambridge College did the teacher, poet, and critic Philip Hosborne study? Which, he was heavily influenced by the critic Frank Levis as well. Which college did he study at? Which college? It wasn't Dame Shirley Bassey, no. It's not a college. It wasn't St. John's. It wasn't Christ, no. It wasn't Oxford. That's not a college at Cambridge. There's not Oxford College at Cambridge. It wasn't King's College, no. Or Collage, in your case, as you say. It wasn't Christchurch. It wasn't Darwin. It wasn't Corpus Christi. It wasn't Cambridge. This wasn't Cambridge College at Cambridge. It wasn't the London School of Economics at Cambridge, because the London School of Economics is a place where I study, which is not at Cambridge. So, no. Cambridge University is not the answer because I asked at which Cambridge College it was, Fiona, but thank you. It wasn't Trinity. It wasn't the Dungeon at Cambridge. No, I don't. It was St. Janet of Evans College. You really love your Janet Evans tonight, you lot. Oh, my God. I hope Janet Evans is watching because she's doing better here than she does on TripAdvisor, doesn't she? The drinks water downer of South Kensington. That could have been her college. It wasn't Peterhouse. It wasn't Fitzwilliam. It wasn't University Challenge. No, that's a program. Nope. Right, at this moment, no one's going to get this point. I'm going to give up in a couple of minutes. Give you a couple more. It wasn't the Cilla Black Academy at Cambridge. No, there was none of those. It wasn't Magdalen. No. It wasn't Wesley. I don't think there is a Wesley College at Cambridge. Lady Min's Cat. I don't think you're quite with it on this topic either. So I don't know. There might be one, but I've never heard of it. I nearly went to Cambridge to university, but I didn't in the end. So there we go. I went to the London School of Economics. Hogwarts, no, that's not a real place. Okay, 0 points awarded. Oh dear, not good. Very bad, all of you. You're all useless on this one. You are the weakest link, as Anne Robinson, my lovely friend, would say. Goodbye. Right. Of course, it was Downing College, Cambridge, is where Philip Hosborne, who was a very interesting man, and I've read lots of his work, and I think he's a fascinating person to read. He was Downing College, Cambridge. Leslie W says, Leslie S in capital letters says, "We are useless" in capital letters. You're not useless. It's just one of my silly random questions, and you can't know everything, can you? And I don't know everything, and nor should you. So, well, clearly none of you did know. So, but we have done this quiz before. So, frankly, some of you need to try harder and try and remember. I'm like Anne in this sense. I'm a bit bossy. So there we go. Okay, next question. We'll move along. We haven't got time for messing about here. Of at least how many victims was Rosemary West convicted of killing in 1995? How many victims was she? At least how many? How many was she actually convicted of? Given that she probably killed more. It wasn't 13. No, that's Fred West. It wasn't 8, it wasn't 12, it wasn't 14, it wasn't 9, it wasn't 6, it wasn't 17, it wasn't 3, it wasn't 5, it wasn't 5, it wasn't 2. Nope. I sound like someone at an auction mart here. I'd be useless at doing that because I can't do numbers. 12, it wasn't 7, it wasn't 4, it wasn't 12, it wasn't 7, it wasn't 1, it wasn't 12, it wasn't 13. It sounds like blah, 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 blah. That's what they do in the auction mart. I used to love going to the cattle auctions. With my dad, and we'd go, blah, 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 all these people shouting. No, it wasn't 6. No. It wasn't 19. No. It wasn't 13. It wasn't 0. No. How many was she actually convicted of? It doesn't matter how many she was accused of. It was how many was she convicted of. It wasn't at least 9, no, but you are closer. You are closer than anyone else, but it's not 9. Jane O'Keefe, you can have the point. Well done, Jane. So Jane O'Keefe, you've redeemed yourself from the of course it was 10 victims, 10 counts that she was convicted of sexual assault and murder. Fred West killed 13 plus, most likely, confessed to 30. So there could have been many more victims, but there were 10 counts of Rosemary. Rose West, awful person. One of the worst. I do think Lucy Letby is actually worse than Rosemary West, to be honest. So there we go. Okay, right. Right, we're getting movement in the background. I don't know why. How many nautical miles does the Round the Island race around the Isle of Wight cover? How many nautical miles does it cover? It was first held in 1931, starts and finishes in Cowes. It's 93 kilometers, but how many nautical miles? Nautical miles is the answer I require. It's not. Josie Muldowney, well done, Josie Muldowney.
Your friends.
I'm sorry, we're getting shouting in the background. Of course, it was 50 kilometers, 50 nautical miles. Okay. Which fort in the Solent near Portsmouth was forced to close in July 2004 due to Legionella bacteria being found in its water system? It's 200 feet in diameter. It was built between 1867 and 1888. It has an indoor swimming pool, 2 helipads, and there was a protest there in 2008 by a man who didn't want it to be repossessed. It wasn't the Bibby Stockholm. Please stop shouting in the background. It's ruining the quiz. It wasn't Fort William, and it wasn't Bristol, and it wasn't Knox. No. It wasn't Fort Lee. No. It's in the Solent near Portsmouth, and it's a fort. It's it was a fort that was built to stop wars, and it was turned into a party palace, and it was used in television programs. It wasn't Fort Kensington, no. It wasn't the Queen Mary, no. That's a boat. You want a clue? It's a fort in the Solent, and I've told you it's 200 feet in diameter, built between 1867 and 1880. It has an indoor swimming pool, 2 helipads, and there were protests there in 2008. Lady Min's cat gets the point. Lady Min's cat. Right, okay. Lady Min, I'll just call you on because I've not got much space. It was called a no man's land or no man's fort. I can accept no man's fort because that's what some people call it. It wasn't the Titanic 2. It wasn't Michael Barrymore. No thanks. And please send me the information about Michael Barrymore. That would be very appreciative. If he's getting involved with the fake Julia. The fake Madeline, sorry, well, she is the fake Julia because we don't even know if she's called Julia. She could be called John, couldn't she, really? That's about as much use as she is. Okay, right. Before I get more coughing, what does the acronym TARDIS mean? What does TARDIS mean as an acronym? I need the full words. It's not Cliff Richard. So TARDIS, TARDIS in capital letters. What does TARDIS mean? It doesn't mean a small room. No. I need the full description. Okay, Lady Min's cat gets it. Time and relative dimensions in space, or it can be dimension. Lady Min's cat can have a second point. So, right, we've got Audrey in the lead with 3 points. Well done to Audrey. We've got Lois on 2 points and Lady Min's cat on 2 points. And then we've got a couple of others on 1 point. So there we go. Okay, which seafood dish did Nigel Slater describe as having spent most of its life seesawing from the height of fashion to the laughably passé? What did Nigel Slater describe as being that? Seesawing, a seesawing dish. I need the full name of the dish. Some of you have mentioned an ingredient in the dish, but you haven't mentioned the dish. It's a dish that has a name, and it isn't paella, and it's not lobster thermidor. Keely gets the point, so Keely gets a second point. Well done, Keely. Of course, it's the prawn cocktail. I love a prawn cocktail. It's one of my favorite things ever. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, in which market did Greg Wallace work after he left school, age 15? Greg Wallace, the disgraced MasterChef man, the bald-headed one who's upset everybody, allegedly, being cancelled and all of that. Which market did he work after he left school? It wasn't Camden. It wasn't Borough. It wasn't Sainsbury's. No, it wasn't DHS. It wasn't. It wasn't a. We have to know the name of the market. It can't be. So Lois gets the point. Well done, Lois. So 3 points to Lois. So Lois is now in joint first. It was Covent Garden. In 1989, he started on George Allen's greengrocers, and he grew his turnover to 7.5 million a year. So he did very well, didn't he? Okay, which late royal loved what she called drinky poos, the term she gave to the lethal concoction of gin and dubonnet she so adored? Which royal loved a gin and dubonnet? Well, Margaret wasn't a royal, no. And Fergie is still alive. Okay, Lois has another point. So Lois is now in the lead with 4 points. Of course, it was the Queen Mother. She considered the cocktail too harsh a word. She didn't like the word cocktail, so she called it a drinky poo. Obviously, it was 1 part gin, 2 parts dubonnet. It said after 1 gin and dubonnet, you'll need a taxi. After 2, you'll need an ambulance. And after 3, you'll need a priest. That's the general consensus on a gin and dubonnet. But there we go. So, okay. Which English football team is nicknamed the Cobblers? The Cobblers. Who are the Cobblers? Because of what goes on in their town. Why would it be called the Cobblers? So you've got to think of the town. Famous for shoes. A town famous for shoes. Hence the Cobblers. It's not Blackburn, no. Good evening to all the late arrivals. Hello. Thank you for all coming. Jane O'Keefe is correct. Yes, Jane O'Keefe gets a 2nd point. Well done, Jane. We've got lots of you getting a few extras here, but not many newcomers getting things. Obviously, Northampton Town, because, Church's shoes are made in Northampton, aren't they? Northamptonshire. So it's the town that's known as the Cobblers. Yeah. So hence why the football team is called the Cobblers. Like, Blackpool's called the Seasiders or the Tangerines because their colour is orange or whatever. They all have a nickname for a reason. And Northampton Town, I haven't written any of this down, I'm just assuming, is famous for Church's shoes. So there you go. Right. Okay. I'm getting a lot of background noise. We don't need background noise. Put your feet up and be quiet.
I'm going to the fridge in a minute.
Oh my God, here we go. Ruining my program. Yep. What is the actual first name of the golfer Tiger Woods? What's his actual Christian name? What is his Christian name? It's not Drew. Excuse me, I have to sneeze. Oh dear. Sorry, apologies. I'm getting disruptions and all sorts of things going on. And it's not dogging. It's not Roger. It's not Barbara. Audrey gets the point. So Audrey now gets a 4th point. So Audrey is now enjoyed first. Well done to Audrey. Of course, it's Eldrick. His Christian name is actually really Eldrick. He's not called Tiger at all. But he doesn't use the name Eldrick because, Eldrick Woods doesn't sound very... Tiger sounds a bit more suitable, I suppose. Okay, what is the official name of the clock tower commonly referenced as Big Ben? What is actually Big Ben really called? Big Ben is not really called Big Ben. The name Big Ben is just a nickname. So what is Big Ben really called? What kind of... And it's called something tower, so that gives you a clue. But what is it? The what tower? It's not the Westminster Tower, no. It's not the Queen's Tower. It's not the Queen Elizabeth Tower. You're close, but you're not. Ange B gets it. Of course, it's the Elizabeth Tower. So Ange B gets the point. 1 point to Ange B. Okay, on which sacred Scottish island is the late Labour politician John Smith buried? It's in one of my most wonderful places in the world that I ever go to visit. I love going there myself. It is a completely beautiful place to be. It's completely spiritual. It's completely wonderful. And it's a fabulous place. Liberty Capes. No, actually, no, sorry. You're beaten by Irene Bain. Irene is a new entrant. Irene gets it. Of course, it is Iona. Iona is, of course, in the Inner Hebrides off the Ross of the Isle of Mull. And, the grave is marked as an honest man's, the noblest work of God. And I love going to visit that place. It is so beautiful there. The water is so blue and green, and all the wonderful Scottish colourists painted there. And to go to Staffa, also the neighbouring island, with all the puffins and Fingal's Cave and the beautiful music, of Mendelssohn and all of that. And honestly, you couldn't go anywhere more peaceful on the planet. It's one of the most wonderful places to visit. And I love that part of Scotland. It's so wonderful. So there we go. Right. Okay. Turning back to John Smith, who, of course, is buried there. Paying tribute to John Smith in 1994, which politician shared that he and and Smith would share a drink, sometimes tea, sometimes not tea? Who was that? Which politician said that? It wasn't Neil Kinnock, and it wasn't Alex Salmond, it wasn't Tony Blair, no. It wasn't Nicola Sturgeon. Oh, she's probably very busy with her caravans. It wasn't Board Johnson. Okay, Jane O'Keefe gets another point. So Jane O'Keefe has got 3 points. It was Sir John Major, of course, who was Prime Minister, and of course they were rivals. So, and can you imagine if we'd had John Smith versus John Major, and what would happen rather than having John Major versus Tony Blair? Yes, I'm getting a lot of background noise, which I don't need. It really doesn't help to have all this background noise all the time. Quiet is a virtue. And anyway, sorry. I'm very sorry, viewers. It's it's very hard. So anyway, right. Okay. Yes. So the winner in this quiz. Let me have a look. Right. Okay. We have a problem here. We have to do another question. I have to think of another question because we have 2 of you, Audrey and Lois Petzold. So only Audrey and Lois Petzold can answer this question. I will choose a random question. Okay. Okay. Let's choose a question. Okay, what acreage of the Albertopolis area of South Kensington does the Victoria and Albert Museum cover? How many acres is the Victoria and Albert Museum? But only the 2 people I will accept answers from are Audrey and Lois. Audrey and Lois. I've got the moron shouting in the background, which is very insulting. It's not 112, Lois. You're not close. No. Audrey and Lois. I don't need the shouting in the background. It really doesn't help because it's ruining it. Audrey wins the point because Audrey comes up with 12.5. So Audrey wins the quiz. Well done to Audrey. Audrey is the winner of the quiz. I do apologize for interruptions because it's not fair to the you're all taking the. It does not add any spice to the program. It's impossible to make a program without having. It's just not fair. So I'm very, very sorry to you all for that. But anyway, thank you for joining in. We've done 2 quizzes, so that's the end of those quizzes. So that's done. Yes. So thank you very much for participating in that. And right, have you any more questions before we go? Let's have a few more questions and we'll leave it at that. So, right, congratulations to Audrey and congratulations to Lady Min's Cat, who won the first quiz, and Audrey, who won the second. So thank you to you all. You've all been very wonderfully participant and joined in, and it's very nice to have people joining in. It's very hard with background noise, but there we go. Anyway, right, okay. Well, anyway, have you any more questions? And we'll talk about some other topics. And before we go, we'll talk about a couple more. What would be the name of the next pope? I've absolutely no idea. I don't know anything about the Roman Catholic Church. I'm no expert on. Oh God, all this noise in the background. Right. I don't know the name. I don't know anything about Roman Catholicism. I'm not a member of that church, so I don't have a knowledge of how the workings of that church works when all this black smoke and white smoke and grey smoke and purple smoke and probably lesbian, gay, bisexual and smoke. And what do I like as a type of shoe? I love Todd's shoes. They're very nice. I love lots of other types of shoes. Yep, no, all sorts of shoes, but Todd's the most easy to wear, and they suit me the best because they're just comfortable and they support my feet. And I did have an accident when I was young, and I was hit by a motorbike in Sloane Street in Knightsbridge, and I was very badly injured, and I was in a coma for a couple of days, and it wasn't a very good situation. So yeah, no, I have to wear comfortable shoes. So I don't wear heavy shoes. I'm not really into heavy shoes because I just wear what suits my feet. So there we go. I had metal plates in my leg and all the rest of it before now, and so yeah, that was a long time ago. It was a chartered surveyor who fled the scene of an accident, and I took him to court, and we won a case against that little rat right opposite Harvey Nichols. And yeah, I was hit by a motorbike. So yeah, that was 2001. So there you go. So that's why I have to wear comfortable shoes, and I find Todd's shoes are actually just perfect for my feet. So that's why I wear them. Yeah. Did I encounter Carol Thatcher? Carol is one of the most lovely ladies, and I'm very glad she got married. I'm so happy for Carol. Carol is a delightful lady. I'm not a great fan of her brother, but I like Carol very much. Carol is such a kind lady, great friend of Christine Hamilton. And Christine Hamilton has been a gem and a treasure and so good and wonderful. And yeah, we love Carol Thatcher. Nothing wrong with her. And she's happily got married to a man who she's spent a lot of her life with. And they live in Switzerland, and they're very, very happy as far as I'm aware. So glad to hear Carol's doing well. So yeah, very good to hear of that. Right, okay, what do I think of Janet Street Porter? Janet Street Porter lives in Whitstable, and everybody in Whitstable hated her. She's horrible, awful woman. I don't know her personally, but they all hated her there. That was all I got to know was, oh God, it's her coming again. She always brought people who were just awful. Because if you're an awful person, you attract awful people, I suppose, and that's what she is. So no, I'm not a great fan of Janet Street Porter. She's just a mouthy old menace. Awful. We spoke about her yesterday at the lunch, in fact, and we didn't speak of her favorably, let's put it that way. There are lots of wonderful people out there. Which wedding was sponsored? I don't know. Which wedding? I don't know. I don't know which wedding we're talking about. I don't know which wedding could have been sponsored by Robinson's Jam. I don't know, because I don't know which wedding you're talking about. So your question doesn't make sense. Right. You love me. Okay, that's very kind of you to say, Amanda. You're very kind. You're a lovely person. Thank you, Amanda. Right. You like the jacket? Yes. Well, it's a bright red one. It's Brioni, this one. It's, I have all sorts of different colourful things, and I like colour. So that's me. I'm a bit like Christine Hamilton in that regard. We love a bit of colour. So nothing wrong with wearing, bright things. Nothing wrong with that. And I don't get told by anybody what to wear ever. So, I do my own thing because I've got my own style, and that's my own choice. So there we go. What's the most interesting thing I've ever seen through a telescope? I don't own a telescope now, but as a child, I used to have a telescope, and I used to like looking at the stars. Yes. I also had a book as a child that would light up with the stars. It was a fabulous thing my dad bought me. I don't remember how it quite worked, but it was very, very amazing. And we used to go out onto the moors, and we'd go and hold the book open, and the thing would light up with all the right stars. I don't know how it worked, but I don't know whether my father was pulling a trick on me or something, but it was a very clever book. So I loved that book. I don't know what happened to that book, but we have so many thousand books in the house that I don't know where could have lost it anywhere. Anyway, right. Do I believe in the afterlife? I believe in ghosts. I'm not a believer in all the religious nonsense. Just not religious. Not for me. Do I like Star Wars? No, not at all interested in Star Wars. Harry and Meghan's wedding. Was it sponsored by Robinson's Jam? That's your question, is it? Okay. Well, obviously it wasn't sponsored by a jam company, but that's what they do. Right. Okay. Do I remember kaleidoscopes? Yes, I think I had a kaleidoscope. Yes, nothing wrong with that. Right. Have I read Spot the Dog books? I think I did, yes, as a child, but I can't remember much about them. So they obviously didn't have a great deal of impact on me. So I can't talk much about that. Right. Okay. Right. About Fergie. Okay. Well, anything to do with her, just awful, absolutely awful woman. Fergie. Can't stand her. Dreadful, wicked, horrible, wrong, disgusting. No time for Fergie. No, not at all. Can't say a positive word about her. And that disgusting Prince Andrew. They should be put in the cellar. Awful. The toe job woman. Yep. There's a fair description. She liked having that going on. Fergie. Yes, you wanted a Fergie. Okay, so you get one. Okay. Do I like Weetabix or shredded wheat? I don't like either of those things. They're both disgusting. I don't eat cardboard, so no thanks. I hate things like cornflakes. Ugh. It's disgusting. It's like what people who are complete fools eat. If you want to eat something in the morning, cook a breakfast. Honestly. What's the word on the street? I don't know what the word on the street is. I have no idea. What's the word on the street? The Coronation Street? This place where I am now? I don't know what the word is here, but okay, yes, we're getting older. You only eat granola. Do I like porridge? Do I like porridge? No, I wouldn't eat porridge. No, I don't like that either. No thanks. I don't do breakfast cereal. Oh, no thanks. Anyway, all those Cocoa Pop things and all that. Oh, horrible. Anyway, right. Okay. Yes. Yeah, you're glad I got justice for the man who hit and run me. Yep. Well, I don't tolerate people who treat me badly. So there we go. Yeah. There we go. Anyway. Yes, I'm very sorry about this program this evening and the whole. I do apologize for the noise. It's just not really helpful to my program. Anyway, I haven't had another haircut. No, I wish I did, but I can't have a haircut here because they can't cut hair in this country. So no, I'm not going to go anywhere near a hairdresser here ever again. No thanks. Right. No, I just dealt with it, made it look better. So, there we go. Anyway, right. Anyway, right. Okay. Right. Okay. Any more questions? Or otherwise, we'll end the show, I suppose. So, have we any more questions? There's hundreds of you here, but well, there's over 100 of you here. And do I watch Emily Mateless's podcast? Nope, can't say I ever have. I think she does that with Lewis Goodall, and I don't mind Lewis. I think okay, he's a bit lefty for me, but no problem with Emily Maitlis, no problem with him. I don't like Owen Jones. I would never listen to him, and I can't stand that Ash Sarkar. Ash Sarkar is the worst. She's one of them. She's petulant and pathetic. So, am I going out for lunch tomorrow? Probably. I don't know. Not probably because I don't know what's happening. God knows. We'll figure out what's happening tomorrow. Right. What's the square root of 64? I couldn't tell you because I'm numerically dyslexic, so I can't answer your question. I'm very sorry to say. So no, don't ask me questions about numbers because it's absolutely pointless. Can I go on the traitors? I don't know what the traitors really is. So I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. I was asked to go on Gogglebox, but they couldn't find anyone suitable to go on it with me because well, I don't think this one would be a very good option given the antics. And the people in Broadstairs, well, no, none of them worked, and my friends in London didn't work because of nobody worked. So there we go. Is it expensive to live in this place? It was cheaper than England, but it's not really much cheaper. No, everywhere's expensive, isn't it, in the world now? Right. Okay. You think it's cheap compared to California? Well, I'm thinking of coming to visit California, as I've already said, because I've been sent a proposal of a business opportunity that could be quite interesting to look at, and I might come and pay a visit just to see whether something can be done or not. So, and I've just I was meant to have a phone call actually tonight. I've forgotten. Maybe I'll do it after this with a friend of mine who's just arrived in Los Angeles. And she's just flown in. So, yeah, I might give her a call shortly because when I tried to call her this afternoon, it was 5 a.m, so I rather woke her up and she had jet lag, and that was a bit unfortunate for her. So I didn't know. I thought she was in London, but I didn't realize she was in California. So, oops, I did it again. There we go, as Britney Spears would say. Right, okay. Miss Marple's going to Los Angeles. Well, yeah, well, who knows? I could be in the California area quite shortly, so it would be nice to meet you if you're there. Right, I'm not involved in the weed business. I don't do cannabis, don't like the smell of it, can't stand it. I've never tried any drug, never tried cocaine or heroin, spice, weed, anything. I'm not like all these lunatic people who smoke and take. I've never even had one of those stupid cakes. People do stupid things when they go on these drugs. No, alcohol is quite enough for me. Alcohol is not okay. It's not a perfect drug, but it's enough for me. I like my wine. I like my whiskey. I like my gin. I like the beer. And occasionally a bit of vodka, or occasionally, whatever, a cocktail of some form. But no, never those evil drugs. The stupid people who start on cannabis are the most stupid of the lot because, they think it's all right, and then it leads to all the other ones, in my view. I say tax the hell out of it, legalize the lot and tax the hell out of it and let them all do what they want. But make it so expensive that no one does it. That's probably the best thing to do. But I don't mind. If you enjoy those things, I'm not judging you. You do what you want. As the system stands, I'd say just enjoy your life. Love your life, as like Robbie Williams said in this song. I think that's quite correct. I think that's the best way to leave people. I prefer to have gin and whiskey to anything else these days, or red wine, because white wine is full of sulfites and it's not very nice in most places. So I've gone off white wine, to be honest. And this rosé wine down here, I don't know. I've gone off that as well. So anyway, there we are. Anyway, right. Okay. So, any more questions? Any more questions? The owner of the horrible pub company is Humphrey Smith of Samuel Smith's. Yes, you are quite correct. Cassie Burton, sorry. This Humphrey Smith is meant to be a very nasty piece of work. He's a piece of toe rag. The Guardian article is fabulous. If you want to read about the horrible pub owner, read the Guardian article on Humphrey Smith of Samuel Smith's Pubs. He is a disgusting, horrible man by the sound of him. So read the article. It was a brilliantly researched article. It must have taken that lady months to research it. She did a lot of work. Well done to her. There's some very good articles in The Guardian at the moment. I think The Guardian is doing great journalism, and The New Yorker. They're the two publications doing actual serious journalism, not publishing all this Lucy Letby is innocent crap, which all the others are coming out with. So no, anyway, there we go. Is wine a good investment? Of course wine's a good investment. If you buy Petrus, buy Chateau Mouton de Rothschild and things like that, yeah, of course you're going to make a load of money. Put down some money. If you want to put money into wine, go to Berry Brothers and Rudd, my friends wine merchants. They will teach you how to, they will give you a portfolio of wine, and you can lay it down, and you can lay it down for your children or whatever you want to do. It's a great thing to do. If you want wine, that's the place to go. Berry Brothers and Rudd. It's the oldest wine merchant in the world. It's a fabulous company, and it's very, very well run. And, they make the most wonderful gin, number 3, which is, my ultimate go-to gin. Before anything else, if I could have a bottle of number 3 gin, that's what I would drink. It's the best gin on the planet, without a doubt. For me, it's the only gin in the world made by someone with a PhD in gin. I love lots of other gins. I love Fisher's gin. I love Martin Miller's gin, which I was involved in distributing in America. Martin Miller is sadly dead. He got cancer also, and he died. Lots of my friends around me at the moment are getting cancer, and it's very sad to hear about people with cancer. And there's a lot of people who I'm very upset about who've got cancer at the moment. But, Martin Miller's gin, oh my God, what a wonderful gin. The Westbourne Strength version, fabulous. There's Gilpin's gin from the Lake District. Love that. Matthew Gilpin, a good friend of mine. He's absolutely superb. Again, his stronger version is the best. There's Fisher's gin from Suffolk. That's where I went in the lockdowns with my mum, and we had a lovely day out because it was a work outing. I was allowed to go there. So we went to his distillery right on the coast, and we sat there and socially distanced, of course. We did as we were told. We followed the rules. And, Fisher's gin is superb. It's made with samphire, amongst other things. It's a beautiful, beautiful gin. I love that gin. Things like that. I hate, the generic rubbish, the Gordon's gin and the Bombay Sapphire and all that. It's boring gin. It doesn't have any passion to it. No joy. These gins, Martin Miller's gin is made with Icelandic water, and it's got a bit of licorice to it, taste to it. I'm not really into licorice, but in his gin, it kind of works. I don't know why. Gins generally have at least 10 botanicals. I can bang on about gin for hours and hours and hours and hours. I'm not going to, because quite frankly, I think it's time I went to bed. It's nearly 11 o'clock at night here, and I'm tired, and I didn't sleep last night, so I need a bit of sleep. And I can't bang on about it all night, but I will say different gins have different flavor profiles because of the different botanicals that they are made with. Gin is basically like vodka, but it has to have juniper as its base. So it's a flavored vodka. Gin is essentially a flavored vodka. So vodka has to be colorless, odorless, and tasteless. Gin must have essentially juniper as a base. Some of these modern gins, you can't even taste the juniper. If you don't like juniper, you shouldn't like gin. And it is fabulous to see so many of these wonderful gins that have been made doing so well across the world. There are hundreds of them, but there are probably too many now. It's time the market is saturated, but there are gins that don't taste of juniper out there. Some of these gins are essentially flavored vodka, and they are disgusting to someone like me because I love the taste of juniper. So if I don't get a gin that there's no taste of juniper, I don't like it because I love juniper. I love the smell of lavender, for example, as well. So if I were to make a gin, I would incorporate that. You could incorporate all sorts of things, but all sorts of things like orange peel, lemon zest. You could have lots of different things you can incorporate into a gin. And I love number 3 gin because it's so simple and wonderful. Made by a man who got a PhD in gin, the only man in the world with a PhD in gin. Absolutely great bloke. And my friend Ronnie Cox, who's Scottish, and he's involved in the Glenrothes whiskey as well, which is a wonderful whiskey. And of course, Berry Brothers owned Cutty Sark whiskey, which was a great whiskey that Maurice Cambar distributed across California. And that was how I got to know all those people. I was involved via him. And when we were involved in Sky Vodka, we got involved with that. And then we got Martin Miller's gin. And what a wonderful, wonderful man Martin Miller was. A fabulous, fabulous man, a positive man who contributed so much. He created the Miller's Antiques Guide. He built shopping malls. He's a truly wonderful man. And I miss Martin very much. I'm getting all this background noise yet again. Sorry, I do apologize. I think I'm going to have to probably end this show very soon because I'm going to go to bed because I can't deal with much more of this noise. There we go. I'm very, very sorry. I don't know how I'm going to do this in the future, but I can't do it from here. That's for sure. So, which beer do I prefer? I prefer lager, to be honest. I'm not really a beer drinker. Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. It's just sorry, I'm just so distracted by all this noise. I can't do any more of this, to be honest. So anyway, I will thank you all for your participation in my program. It's very kind of you to have participated. I'm very sorry I must go because I can't do any more this evening. I just can't have all this noise in the background. It's distracting and it's off-putting. Anyway, I thank you all for your kind participation, and you were very, very charming. And I say happy evening to you all, and good night and good gardening. And it's time for me to go to bed. And good night, and have a lovely evening. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you. Sorry, I must go.